Welcome to the City Commission meeting, May 6th, 2025. Would you join, we'll call to the order.
Mayor McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Adamchuk,
Present.
Commissioner Opel,
Aye.
Commissioner Motta,
Here.
Commissioner Mitten.
Here.
Mayor, we have 5 commissioners present. The quorum of 3 is met.
Thank you. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have 2 proclamations. Thank you. Danielle, are you joining me for the public servant one? What order do you want to do? Am I out of order? We'll go with travel. Sorry. I had too much relaxation in between meetings here. Wow, what a good group.
I know.
Okay. Whereas our Manhattan hospitality industry is recognized as a vital component of our community, playing an essential role in the success of our economy by serving our visitors. And whereas travel is an economic driving force for Kansas and Manhattan, as a destination with an economic output of $227 million and generating almost 3,000 jobs. And whereas travel spending supports a vibrant and safe community for Manhattan by generating an estimated $23.7 million in state and local tax revenue, and these are the people who help us do it, for services such as education, emergency response, public safety, and more. And whereas travel enables success for all industries, including manufacturing, agriculture, defense, healthcare, and more, by driving sales growth, innovation, education, and operations which power our economy, our nation, and Manhattan, Kansas. And whereas travel is an essential industry, and we must continue to communicate the growing travel leads to economic growth, benefits businesses, fosters mutual understanding, and connects the nation. And whereas leisure travel inspires countless benefits to health, wellness, creativity, cultural awareness, education, happiness, productivity, and relationships. And whereas visitors are drawn to Manhattan as the gateway to the Flint Hills and explore a rich variety of unique experiences such as our Discovery Center, Sunset Zoo, the Museum of Light and Art, Art and Light, Midwest Dream Collection, Car Collection, and other attractions, multiple running events, including the Bill Snyder Half Marathon, which is coming up, zip lining, hiking and biking trails, hunting, fishing, golf, water sports, and many other offerings of K-State University and the Big 12 sports. And during the spirit of the holidays with the Festival of Lights celebration. Now, therefore, I, Karen McCullough, Mayor of the City of Manhattan, do hereby proclaim May 4th through 10th, 2025, as National Travel and Tourism Week. And could I just say, I'm going to turn it over to Marcia, but as mayor, as all of us mayors do, we go and welcome people often. And I hear from a lot of the different conventions what wonderful support they have from our Travel and Visitors Bureau, that, you know, they do all these things, everything comes in, it runs smoothly, and they want to come back, and that's really important.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. I'm Marcia Roselle, Director of Visit Manhattan, and I just want to acknowledge my team that's standing here beside me tonight. Jen Alley, Convention Sales. She's the one that works with those conventions to bring them here and sell them. Lauren Chard, our sports sales manager. Sports is definitely a tourism driver here in Manhattan. Julie Valdeparis, she's our service coordinator. She's the one that coordinates all those mayor's welcomes and all of our complimentary services. And then I want to also acknowledge Scott Sieben, who's our chair of our Visit Manhattan Steering Committee, because he plays a vital role in helping to advise us on our transient guest tax dollars usage. So I just want to say that tourism does matter in Manhattan. We have the privilege, as the mayor said, of promoting our hospitality partners, our amazing restaurants, the ones like Scott owns, our attractions that were highlighted in the proclamation, our hotels, and our local retail shops. Each of these entities offers something unique to our visitors. And in return, those visitors bring in outside dollars that are vital to our local economy. Those dollars fuel jobs, strengthen businesses, and help provide the quality of life that we all as residents enjoy. That's why supporting tourism is just not good for visitors, but it's vital for Manhattan's future. So thank you, Mayor, for acknowledging.
You're welcome.
And appreciate the
There's your
proclamation.
proclamation.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, now we're going to do Public Service Recognition Week. I really should have the whole staff up here for this.
I drew the short straw. That's what
Oh,
happened.
the short
I
straw,
did.
yeah.
I offered. I was like, everyone come up here and stand with me. And they were like, no, you go, Danielle.
This is, I think, really important. Lately, public servants have been getting a little bit of a bad rep, and they've been a lot of changes. We've seen many people let go from positions where we really need them, and so I think all we can do to say we support you is important. I've had the pleasure of working with city staff, county staff, university staff, and I know these people go way above and beyond, and I really salute you. So, proclamation. Whereas public servants serve the American people every day at the federal, state, county, and city levels. They do work that keeps our nation moving. And whereas public employees take not only jobs, but oaths, and whereas many public servants, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, local government employees, court personnel, safety instructors, university personnel, healthcare professionals, teachers, and others, provide essential services and protections to the people of the United States and around the world. And whereas career civil servants carry out the most fundamental purpose of government, to ensure public safety and represent public interest with efficiency and integrity when addressing social, economic, and political challenges. And whereas without these public servants at every level, continuity and reliability would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. Now, therefore, I, Karen McCullough, Mayor of the City of Manhattan, do proclaim May 4th through 10th, 2025, as Public Service Recognition Week. And I encourage all citizens to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees at all levels, federal, state, county, and city. You're welcome.
Mayor McCullough stated it very well, and I certainly appreciate the sentiment. On behalf of the City of Manhattan and all 450 of our employees, you all have an incredibly dedicated staff who serve you each and every day. From the minute you wake up in the morning and you turn on the water and brush your teeth, to the afternoon, your morning commute, to the afternoon when you go and you pick up your kids from soccer practice, to when you head home, to your well thought out and well planned and safe neighborhoods. We truly do love and appreciate the opportunity to serve everyone in the City of Manhattan. So thank you very much.
We will open the meeting with public comments, and these are comments not on agenda items. So if you hold your comments on the agenda items until we get to that agenda item. I would also just like to make it really clear that tonight's issue on the Anderson Avenue is a question of zoning, whether we should make it high density or low density. We are not going to be talking about any kind of roundabouts or traffic circles, or that's all way down the road. And so you can certainly make comments about that if you wish, but it's not what we're really thinking about. Okay. So is there anyone who would like to make a public comment on anything that the city's doing. Yes, come forward. Oh, and also give your name and your address, and then if you would, go sign in if you haven't signed in before. Oh, this is great. Could I also just say as an announcement while you're getting back, the Friends of the Caw are going to be picking up trash on the Kansas River with the Rotary Club this weekend on Saturday. So I think it's 10 o'clock at the, where the blue comes in on Highway 24. Okay.
Okay, my name's Tim Weisbender. I'm here on behalf of the nonprofit Tuttle Creek Lake Association. We've spent 31 years, educated thousands and thousands of youth on how to tie hooks, water safety, all the different types of techniques in fishing. We've produced 2 national champions, one in catfish and one in crappie. Tim Martin and Mackenzie Del Rosso, local kid, but and the whole purpose of this is, and I don't fish, by the way. My brother Russell got me involved in this, and 11 years ago, and the joy that I seen in these children catching fish was just unbelievable. I mean, it just gives you goosebumps. The first 5-6 years, things were just wonderful. Everybody caught a fish. You know, we stock the lake with fish. We teach them. We have a class here on a Friday night, and we fish on Saturday morning. Well, somewhere along the line, someone decided that one of the crown jewels of Annenberg Park wasn't worth taking care of. So Dishman Lake, and I'm sure Jerry's rolling over in his grave, they let Dishman Lake go to hell. There's trash in it, there's moss. In the last 2 years, I've seen more little kids crying because they didn't catch a fish. And that was the first 2 years that no one has caught fish. And 700 catfish and 125 little kids fishing with hot dogs. They won't touch a worm. You know, we supply the bait, we give them a pole, you know, the whole 9 yards. But the bottom line is that we've got a crown jewel, a treasure in Dishman Lake, and we've let it go to trash. I've been in contact started with Eddie Estes, gone to Casey, Aaron Stewart, Joe Gherkin up at the Aquatics, K-State, Dunn's Fish Farm, Wallace Fish Farm. And again, I don't fish. It's no sweat off my back to not do anything, but I would like to invite any of you to come on the 31st of May at 9:30 in the morning and witness this joy of a kid catching his first fish.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, and you've got an address here of www.tuttlecreek.org if people are interested.
yeah, and we still have openings. We register 125 kids, and it's just a wonderful thing. And I if anybody's got children, I invite them to register.
Thank you. We thank you and all the wonderful volunteers that do things. I just read that the Lions Club of Manhattan took 9,000 glasses to be sent to people in Africa who don't have glasses.
Yep.
So,
What-
thank you.
Jerry Dishman used to let us do this in September in the city pool.
Yeah.
And he decided to dig a big hole at Amber Park.
Okay, and do
so,
it there.
I mean, it's been a wonderful thing.
Thank you. Other comments that do not pertain to the items on the agenda? Okay, commissioner comments.
I just want to say I've had a lot of emails from folks the last couple of weeks. I really appreciate it. I'm a little behind. I'm trying to catch up and respond to you. So if you sent me an email, I am working on it. Then next Saturday, May 17th at 9:30, John and I will be meeting to have coffee and donuts with anybody who wants to come and have a chat. So please join us at the Grosbeck Room in the Manhattan Public Library, 9:30.
Didn't know there were donuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really done a lot for the attendance.
Okay. Susan, did you have any? Okay. Items on the consent agenda are those of a routine and housekeeping nature, and they're usually items which have been previously reviewed by the city commission. Do I hear any wishes to change things on the consent agenda?
I don't have any, there's nothing I want to pull, but I do have a couple of questions of clarification.
Okay.
On item H2, to execute a professional services agreement with International Cybernetics Company, LP, I just wanted to verify, this project has a very short turnaround for its first deadline. Today is May 6th, and their deliverables of providing data, should we approve this agreement, is May 30th. And so I just wanted to verify if that was in fact realistic.
Commissioner?
Yeah?
That agreement that's in the packet is a draft, and the action item tonight is to authorize city administration to finalize that agreement. I did receive what I believe is the final version of that agreement just before this meeting, and those deadlines have all been adjusted. The end goal will still be to complete the project by the end of the year, but the first deadline is no longer in 30 days. It's a little bit pushed out from that.
Okay, thank you, Wyatt. My second question is in that same section, H3, professional services agreement to work on Walters Drive. I happen to have been on Walters Drive just this past week. It's in pretty rough shape, and I was wondering if we knew when work was going to get started on that.
Yeah, Commissioner, that work is anticipated to start as soon as school is out.
Okay, great, thank you.
University or school?
USD 383 school.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Other questions, thoughts?
So I kind of just wanted to discuss, just kind of make sure we're pointing this out. We do have the first reading of the adoption, or the first reading changing the code of ordinances that makes it so we only have to do one reading instead of two. And we've talked about that in a work session. I just want to put that out in the open and make sure everyone's aware. That's,
I think I would like to just take that off, and, because I think there's some public that wants to talk about that too.
okay,
So we just move it to the end of the consent agenda.
okay.
Yep.
And then I would also like to move item K1D off of the consent agenda.
Same.
So
Okay.
other than that,
I'd like to move E1, please. And I also was interested in the not having a second reading for the ordinances. Okay. John, did you have anything?
Nope.
Nope. Jamie?
Peter grabbed the ones
Okay,
that I was looking
good.
at.
All right.
okay.
So are there any people who'd like to make comments on everything except what we just took off the consent agenda?
Did you get all that, Brenda?
She's great. Okay. So, moving on, we'll just go in order, so to speak. E1, quite
Oh,
frank.
do we want to, I'll move that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of E1, F2, and K1D.
Okay,
Second.
been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Oh, we have to call. Yeah.
Commissioner Adamczyk?
Yes.
Commissioner Opelt?
Yes.
Commissioner Motta?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitten?
Yes.
Mayor McCullough?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, E1. I think this was kind of a solution looking for a problem. The neighborhood was told, and I've seen the letter that they got, that they would be looking at the parking on 9th and 10th from from Houston to Points. There was.
Mayor, can we look at the map?
Sure,
Wyatt, sorry.
that's all right.
Thank you. And
I would have hopped up here right away, but I wasn't quite sure what the questions were gonna be, but we'll get the map up.
Now, the letter which the neighbors received did not show anything from Pierre to Houston. It only showed from Houston to Points and said, would you be agreeable to the parking changing along that area? And everybody said, fine. But now, since we're looking at extending that, there was a meeting on the 29th, I think, of April. Some people were not, I don't know if they, the mail service lately, not great. I just, I've driven by this time and time again. I understand the change because we had school buses there before, and it was important to make sure that there, people weren't parked where there would be school buses. But basically, from Pierre to Houston, the people, several of those people use, they park on both sides of the street. I don't know why and I'm kind of concerned that the signs were even up before we even talked about this. And just to segue a little bit into reading ordinances twice, I feel like I wouldn't have known about this if we only read this once, which was my concern, So I just don't understand why we're having these parking issues when the neighborhood didn't realize that.
so I felt like this captured the comments that came last time, and they removed the reserved parking signs. Is that right, Brian?
Correct,
You
yes.
maybe you just summarize what
Brian,
changes
but
were
the
made
letter-
from the
you
last
sent the
time.
letter out, Brian.
That's correct. I sent an original letter, maybe first part of April,
And it
from,
had only from
you're correct,
Houston-
yes. From some feedback that we got from USD. So I sent that letter. People had voted on it or gave us their opinion on it. Then I got some phone calls with some questions, so we set a neighborhood meeting for last Tuesday, the 29th. And at that meeting, this is what the neighborhood proposed that they would like to see. They're requesting no parking on the east side of 10th because as they turn off of Points, if there's parking on both sides, they can't see if there's somebody coming, so they have to stop in Points in the middle of their turn to let that northbound car go through.
I think the only issue with the people that have called me is the Pierre to Houston, why that's changed, because,
Well, we originally had showed it as a no park on the west side, and they asked us if we could change it back and have parking on both sides, and at the meeting last Tuesday night, that's what we agreed to.
this is 9th Street I'm talking about. You've got parking on both sides of 10th Street,
Correct.
but only parking on the west side of 9th Street.
Okay, on the west side of 9th Street. The one individual that came last Tuesday, that's what they had asked for. If you have other people that are requesting something else, certainly have them reach out to me.
Okay.
So we can discuss that. This is what the recommendation was from the neighborhood last Tuesday.
Well,
Unless somebody didn't make the meeting,
yeah.
possibly.
I'm not trying to be difficult, but.
No, either am
but-
I.
But I think the problem is that they didn't get the right information, I mean, the information changed between the letter and what we saw.
Well, it sounds like it changed.
It's
It
changed
sounds
again.
as if it's changed just in the last week since the public meeting.
Yes.
Since the
Karen,
first meeting, that's
Could you
correct.
restate your concern? I was looking at 10th Street the whole time you were
Yeah, I was.
talking, and so I missed what the concern was on 9th. I'm sorry.
Ninth, the people living on Ninth park on the east side of Ninth because that's how they get into their house. Now, they would only have to walk across the street, but that's, and then there's a little sort of cottage. There's some people who do use the east side of Ninth. I just didn't see why we couldn't forget the,
Well, originally, you're right, we proposed no parking on the west side of Ninth.
yeah.
Because that was the site next to the school. After last Tuesday,
They wanted the,
that's what they had asked.
well, I've driven by at several different times of the day trying to figure this out, and I can't really see that there's much demand for parking between Pierre and Houston on 9th or 10th.
Yeah, what they
I see
said
almost
last,
nobody parked there either time. And even the school, you know, their angle parking isn't full. They aren't filling up their parking lot that's east of 9th Street on
Right.
Points. So I'm just thinking, did we,
no, last Tuesday, what the neighborhood had mentioned was that there's apparently some practices in that facility after hours, and during those practices, the streets will line up on both sides.
okay.
And so that's what they had asked. We had originally proposed no parking on the west side so that as you're going eastbound on Points, before you make that right-hand turn, you can see what's coming down the street so you can stop if you.
Sure, well, and I'm fine with the Points
Okay.
part at all. It's just the, anyway, well,
This is what the recommendation was from the.
how many people did
neighborhoods.
you have turn out for the meeting on the,
I would guess 12 to 15. I'd have to go back and look at my
Yeah.
book, but
okay.
it was a good dozen.
Well, I'm okay to go with this, but, and I'll try and get back with the people who called me. And some of them were even on Pierre because there's only parking on one side of Pierre.
Correct, yes.
And so if they have
I
people,
believe the south side is
if they have
available.
people for dinner or something like that, you know,
Yep.
it gets filled up pretty quickly.
And we'll be back in the next 60 to 90 days to come back and talk about what the school's doing with their angled parking. If at that time that those folks that live on 9th Street want to change, we can certainly make that recommendation then.
Okay. Well, the no parking signs look pretty permanent.
Oh, we can move them. We're good at that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, let's go ahead and take a motion on that one.
Okay,
I move we approve item E1.
Second?
First.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, probably
Probably
want to
good.
do that, yeah.
okay, what?
Public comment.
Oh, public comment, we just. Okay. Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Opel,
Yes?
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Commissioner Minton,
Yes.
Commissioner, Mayor McCullough,
Yes?
Commissioner Adamczyk.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Peter, you want to lead off?
What's that?
Do you want to express this is F2?
Oh, I mean, I just want us to make sure that we're doing this for the right reasons. Like, I get it. I think that having two readings and the way that we have our process is kind of confusing. If a person is trying to follow along with an ordinance or something that requires two readings per our ordinance, they have to really understand the nuts and bolts of how this works. It's kind of similar to trying to follow the legislature and understanding when something is voted out of committee and then approved on final act. It's very hard to follow. And so really what I like about this is that we are making it so that when we vote on something, we vote on it. Now, it is going to put a lot of responsibility and impetus on us as commissioners to know what we are voting for, and we've got to be doing the preparation and understand everything. And we also need to be able to use our discretion to table items if we're not comfortable voting for them. But we do have that authority and that discretion to do that. So That's kind of my comments on it.
Well, I feel like we're trying to expedite things, and I think that's okay. But very often, we have ordinances and things like that on the agenda, and people bring up various issues that I hadn't considered. And you can do your research, but until you hear from the public and other commissioners, I really think that having a second reading is important.
I'll just chime in. I like expediting things up. There are occasions where that second reading kind of hurts us when we need to get something done quick. I think we should put more emphasis on making sure things get publicized. The other thing is, when we're doing meetings, I think we shouldn't be shy about tabling things. If we think we have an issue or somebody brings something up that we couldn't take into account, we simply say, okay, we need to do some more work, and we table it, and then come back for the next time. And the fail-safe always is, in most cases, it's not something that's gonna happen right away, and we can always turn around at the next meeting and change our minds and vote it back out or amend it.
Jamie, did you want to say something? I wanted to underscore that the requirement of having a second reading was eliminated in state statute 13 years ago, in 2012, and we have retained that as part of our processes. The other thing that I want to point out is that, as part of another issue which we will consider later on this agenda, when we look at planning and zoning issues, there are more opportunities to allow for that second reading. So I think that this is in tandem, both an effort to streamline the development process somewhat and get things moving through the system, but there are safeguards in place such that it's not necessarily going to be ramrodded through with a single hearing. So just wanted to raise those points of clarification.
I would just say that, often we say, well, the public should be involved and they should know what's going on, but it's very, very hard for them to know. The Mercury does not in any way cover ordinances very much or that kind of thing. And so I just feel the second reading gives a little more chance for the public to know what's happening. I think John has a very good point that we should table. We hardly ever table anything. And so maybe we should err on the side of that. I just, like this silly business about the parking on 9th and 10th.
That would have been a table
It's a
item,
good segue into,
Which we did based on.
yeah.
Based on
Yeah,
public
but I mean,
comment a couple weeks ago.
we basically, we shouldn't even be changing things. We read that once and then we changed it and, I know it's not an ordinance, but just seemed to me I don't know. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this subject? Mel, please join us.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I appreciate your comments about this topic, and I do urge you to reject this ordinance to eliminate the second reading to reduce time for ordinance adoption for these additional reasons. It further empowers the city to ignore the strategic guidance of the land use plan and destabilize established neighborhoods by misrepresenting and or withholding proposed rezoning facts and consequences. It eliminates a second opportunity for public comment, as well as eliminates an opportunity for a more comprehensive understanding by you of what you are asked to approve. It's promoted at the behest of a for-profit business lobbying organization to speed up the rezoning process, despite this being a conflict of interest to citizens that provide our city staff their salaries and who elect you all to represent everybody in the community. It could potentially stop or drastically encumber the city's current rezoning process behavior when non-transparent consequences result in additional due process legal actions that can also have unlimited appellate review. When the legislature allowed Kansas cities of the first class to opt out of second readings, they probably assumed that all cities had honest, transparent governments that honored citizens' constitutional property due process rights. When it comes to rezoning established Manhattan neighborhoods, our city has demonstrated it is not among them. If you ignore the needs and the rights of your constituents and approve this proposal, please know that you will also be encouraging further questionable Manhattan government behavior. Thank you.
Mel, I'd like to ask a question. I am not aware that this is being promoted by a for-profit company. Can you give us a little bit more?
No, let's see. It's a for-profit business lobbying organization.
Is that local or is that?
It's the Chamber of Commerce. And our city management tells us that this is one of the reasons they want to eliminate this to speed up the process. So their developer can, have a smoother path to come into the older neighborhoods. And they are promoting these large projects in the older neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mel, could you give your name and address, please?
Yes, yes, thank you. It's for reminding me. It's Mel Borst, and my address is 1918 Humboldt Street. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. And Mel, sign in over there. Anybody else who wants to speak on this issue?
Amber Starling, 408 Houston Street. It may come as a surprise, but I am quite tired of criticizing you. If you're saying that tabling is an option, I just need you to please show me that we can trust you to use it by using it. In this instance, just now, Mayor McCullough was rightly dissatisfied with how the information was gathered and then used in this instance of parking near downtown. That would have been a prime opportunity to table it and say, let's go back to the community, let's go back to that neighborhood and talk about and make sure that these proposed changes are what they want. But it just passed 5-0. So if we're going to move forward with this and you guys are saying, we don't need 2 ordinances readings, if we're going to use tabling, please God, use tabling. Thank you.
Want to sign in over here? Anybody else? Oh, I'm sorry, Amber, you've already signed in on this one. Yeah, sorry.
But that's, yeah.
That's fine.
Well, it's public comments on it. Okay, anyone else wishing to address this? Okay, would anyone like to make a motion?
If you use your 3 minutes on this here, you can't get your 3 minutes later on?
No, you can have 3 minutes on every subject.
Well, my name is Chris Deachin, and I'm here for the later deal, but this second reading, I've been trying to figure out this whole system anyway. It's very confusing. I've lived in Manhattan over 50 years. I have never had to come and try to get you guys to coincide with some of the littler guys as opposed to the bigger guys. I even tried to hire an attorney on this deal, and he says, well, Manhattan, what K-State wants, K-State gets, and Manhattan usually gives it to them. And we're talking about older neighborhoods. A lot of the neighborhoods been around there. I don't want to get into the other deal, but so this whole process is hard. I wanted to file a petition against this deal. Other cities have an actual forum where people that we don't know what we need to do, whether we can talk to you on or off the line, on time or when or how to get everything done. And so when you've never did it, you know, all this preliminary, you guys kind of know and talk back and forth, but boy, it's way over my head. And I think it's over a lot of other people's heads. And we're just trying to get our point across, you know, and I can say more, you know, when our other deal is, but the process, and I've had some really nice city people try to help me. And I'm not real big on the computer, so it's, you know, they all say, oh, go look on the computer and what have you. And I get in there and I get clear places can't go. So, you know, as a taxpayer, I need help from the city, but I was also told, oh, we can't tell you whether you can use this form or not, because that would be legal advice and we can't give no legal advice. So this is what I'm telling you. You guys make it sound, and you guys might understand it, but I'm not sure the rest of us do, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody?
John Random, 2308 Hillview Drive. The gentleman said that signs got put in and signs are gonna have to be removed. How much of that of our tax dollars went into that mistake? And how is that gonna be recouped?
What does this have to do with
Excuse
reading
me,
ordinance?
this is not relevant to the ordinance.
We're talking about the ordinance now.
Apologize about that.
Yep.
Sorry.
That's all right. Whoops, would you like to go? Okay. Anybody else want to discuss the ordinance? Seeing none? Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we approve item F2 off the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitten,
Yes.
Mayor McCullough,
No.
Commissioner Adamczyk,
Yes.
Commissioner Opelt.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Okay, we have one more thing on the consent agenda to discuss, and that's the appointment of Linda Morse to the Manhattan Urban Area Planning Board, KD.
I guess I'll start on this one. I would just like us to discuss that appointment, and I'd like us to look at the other options that applied. We had 5 applicants that applied for that, so I'd like us to discuss that.
Yeah, I think Linda Morse has served our community very honorably and for a very long time. And this is nothing against Linda. Karen, I have heard you speak several times about why you ran for commission this time, and it was because you didn't think we had enough people who were interested in serving. And if we are going to encourage other members of our community to participate by serving on boards and things like that, how can we do that if we continue to appoint the same people to these boards?
That's a good point, and I did look at the other people, and 2 or 3 of them were outstanding. I appointed Linda because, first of all, she's from Northview. We have practically no one from Northview on any of our boards. It is a section of our town that is totally unrepresented. And second, she knows about the comprehensive land use plan. This commission has done a lot of spot zoning, and I think the planning board should disapprove of that more than we do. I think it's hard for people who don't live in the older neighborhoods or Northview to understand the problems with just zoning house next to yours, upzoning it, and what that might do to the facilities and the demand on parking and all these kinds of things. Yes, I know Linda has a long history of service. I just thought in this case, to get somebody that had knowledge of these things and was from an area that is totally underrepresented would be a good idea.
I think I would probably agree with Peter and think that it would be good to try to get some different people on. I think we do kind of suffer a lot from the same same old in certain situations, and it would help us out to kind of get some other people into the mix.
There's a quandary here because obviously people need to volunteer for that service. There's so much that we can do in terms of letting people know about what is entailed on serving on the different community boards. I appreciate what you are saying in terms of trying to enhance the representation of Northview on broader community boards. It's also incumbent on the residents of that community to seek out those opportunities. Linda is a friend. I admire her service greatly, as I think we all do. I don't like the idea of her being the token Northview person. And I guess I would just urge everyone in this room, who I know most of you live on Anderson Avenue or in those neighborhoods, but do what you can to encourage your fellow citizens to apply to these boards and to represent your positions on these boards. Bring your expertise to these boards.
Does anybody in the public like to make any comments on this agenda item? Okay.
I will move that we reject the appointment for the Manhattan Urban Area Planning Board.
Commissioner Opelt, we
Yes.
will need all motions to be in the positive form.
Oh,
So then you will need to vote no if you wish to not ratify this appointment.
okay. I was reading the summary that we can approve or reject, so, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry, Danielle, can you help us with?
No,
So we need a motion to approve.
To approve.
All right, I would move to appoint Linda Morris to the Manhattan Urban Area Planning Board.
Second.
Brenda, will you call?
Commissioner Minton,
No.
Mayor McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Adamczyk,
No.
Commissioner Opelt,
No?
Commissioner Motta.
No.
Motion carries 4-1. I mean, fails 4-1, sorry.
Okay. The general agenda, the first thing on the general agenda is,
Mayor, is there a recommendation by the commission?
From the candidate pool, I would be in favor of Shelley Carver or Katie Luffmiller, and both are interested in serving. I don't know if we just return that to you, Karen, to make a recommendation later. Okay.
yeah. Okay, on to the general agenda. This is to consider a guaranteed maximum price for Laramie Street from North Manhattan Avenue to 11th Street, professional services agreement and amended financing for 12th Street and Laramie Street projects AG 2202.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Before Deputy City Manager Jason Hilders speaks on this item, we wanted to introduce something to you all that's been around for a little bit, but we have been working with Middle, and Ashley Furman here is going to come up and talk a little bit about Access Aggieville. It's a website, social media campaign that we started when construction began in Aggieville a few years ago. We wanted to make sure that we were educating the public, businesses, and visitors about construction so that we can encourage more people to go to Aggieville and navigate Aggieville when these construction projects like the one Jason's going to talk about is occurring. So, Ashley, you want to come on up here?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Like Jared said, I'm Ashley Furman. I'm the Strategy Director at Middle, and I'm also the Access Aggieville Campaign Director. I'm really excited to share more about this campaign tonight, not only to bring all of you up to speed, but also to help educate the public about what we're doing to support our Aggieville businesses and visitors during construction. Access Aggieville is a public information campaign that was created to make it easier for people to understand how construction may impact their trip to Aggieville. In essence, we tell people how to access Aggieville. We all know that construction can be confusing, and it can deter some people from visiting areas altogether, which is the issue this campaign aims to solve. The accessaggieville.com website is the home for this campaign, and I'm going to quickly scroll through some of the main features here. The first is an interactive map. It shows things like real-time road and sidewalk closures, alternate routes, and other parking updates. This provides a really high-level at-a-glance view, but for those who want to know more, they can click into each update and better understand the project it's connected to, the businesses it impacts, etc. We have parking information, how to park in the garage, simplified street parking maps that people can learn more about. We make it really easy to understand how to sign up for text notifications. And we have every single improvement project, past, current, future, and a lot of in-depth information about each one, as well as a timeline. Finally, we have business directory profiles and district events as well. So it's a really holistic website for everything that's going on in Aggieville that might impact your trip, not just construction, but event-related closures as well for parades and things like that. And then just for context, I get all of this information because I'm in direct communication with city staff. I have BHS's project manager's cell phone number, and I stay up to date by watching these commission meetings. So everything that I do post here or on the social profiles, it's all coming from a reputable place, and those individuals also check what I post and make sure that everything's reviewed and approved before it goes live. To drive awareness for this campaign, I'm utilizing social media, specifically Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, under the handle @AccessAggieville, where I post regular updates and share helpful tips for navigating construction. You may have already seen some exterior signage in and around Aggieville advertising the campaign, and you're definitely going to be seeing more of it because as of this afternoon, I've been going door to door, handing out everything from posters to coasters to Aggieville businesses. With construction starting up in May, you all can support the Access Aggieville campaign by saving this website, accessaggieville.com, in your bookmarks and use the tools available on the site. You can follow our social profiles and share our posts to help spread the word, and you can sign up for text notifications. Before I go, though, I'd also like to briefly address the public and share my personal opinions and experiences as a community member who had the privilege of seeing behind the curtain while construction planning was taking place for this next big 12th Street project. I've sat at a big table right here in this room, actually, with BHS Construction, Olson, city leadership, Dennis with the ABA, Aggieville business owners, and other stakeholders, discussing the most effective approach to execute these vital projects while maximizing safety and minimizing travel impacts. It is a delicate balance, and I can understand why it's easy to judge decisions when you're not there to see how they were made. For example, when Morrow Street shuts down for about a month due to construction at the intersection of 12th and Morrow, it will be easy to feel inconvenienced, it will be easy to complain, and it will be easy to criticize decision makers. I get all of that. However, from what I've witnessed, I can assure the public that this has been a highly intentional and collaborative process. Remember, these are your neighbors sitting around all of these tables, measuring the pros and cons, and taking great care to make the right decisions based on the options available to them. Will everything go as planned, and will every piece of communication be executed perfectly? No. However, I am confident in my neighbors' ability to listen and learn and take the next right step, because I know they care about Aggieville's success and longevity just as much as I do. I've seen it firsthand. That's why during construction, I'm challenging my fellow community members to shift your mindset. When the urge to make disparaging comments creeps in, pause and ask yourself, How is criticizing and complaining serving me and the community I care about? Because spreading negativity about construction is more harmful than the construction itself. And the best way you can serve the community during this time is to visit Aggieville businesses and encourage everyone else to do the same. The bottom line is, I want everyone to continue to access Aggieville rather than avoid it. Your energy is much better spent supporting the district, and together we can ensure Aggieville remains lively and accessible regardless of what's happening behind the construction fences. Thank you for your time and support, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
I just have one. I'm not seeing the alley work that's getting started now on your website. Can
On the 12th Street south of that, or,
the alley, yeah, the alley that would be,
12th Street south of Morrow, next, the one that's right off of 12th Street?
yes.
That would be news to me. Okay. Yeah, I was down in the district today. There wasn't any construction going on in the alleys.
That work may have been approved, but it hasn't necessarily started
Okay.
yet.
Okay, okay.
It's probably gonna be in the phasing that Jason's gonna talk about what's happening over the next couple of months and years.
Okay, thank you. This looks great. It's really clean and easy to navigate through, and I will pass the word, tell people to use it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks really great. Have people been signing up for the texts and stuff yet? Yeah.
Yeah, we have a small list, and we'll definitely be pushing it more. We launched in 2023, anticipating this project that's happening now. So
Yeah.
we've been in kind of a soft launch, quiet phase, and so we're really ramping things up right now, and pushing text notifications is one of those things.
Awesome. It looks really great.
Thank you.
And we just passed the first reading tonight to make the garage during this construction time on Morrow free and no registration and all that, so you're gonna promote that up a lot once we, so that we're officially doing everything. I think you should really hype that, now's the time to come. You can just park and go.
As of either today
19th or,
Either today or yesterday, Thomas Sign actually just installed a brand-new big free parking billboard on the side of the garage, and Aggieville business owners were already giving me a thumbs up for that today as I was walking around.
Okay. Jason?
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a big reason we have them involved, and a lot of it has to do with this map. We obviously were in the green part between 2019 and 2023, and those are major access points into the Aggieville district. What we have remaining is in red, and there's a significant piece of that we're about to tackle. In February, we had an item for you all to consider starting construction here on the 12th and Morrow block down to our, 12th and Morrow here down to Laramie. And this segment, you did approve guaranteed maximum price. We got a bond resolution, and we knew the next phase was coming. Laramie, starting at 11th, going to North Manhattan, and 12th Street from Laramie to Fremont were in the phase 2. You can see the alley that I believe you were referencing earlier, Commissioner Adamchak, will start this August, and it'll go a couple months. We won't get into the alley off 11th Street with either of these phases. We have been doing alley work, though. We have taken all the overhead power lines down. We have removed the wooden poles. So we have been doing work in those alleys for the past couple years, but they're finally now to the point where they've connected all those businesses with that new electrical service. So there has been work in those alleys, and we've repaved them. This work will actually finish the alley to a point where we won't have to get back in there. Just a reminder, this May 19th through June 19th, we will shut down 12th and Morrow. We'll continue that work really through the end of the year of 2025 in that half block. We'll pick it up in September, go through the first of the year in 2026, and then we'll get into this intersection. A lot of the action tonight is, first and foremost, the guaranteed maximum price for Phase 2, which is that area I was describing from 11th to North Manhattan on Laramie, and then this Fremont to Laramie section of 12th Street. But it also brings back a bond resolution that brings this together. This work is going to be seamless, and when we do the financing, we need it to be seamless as well. We wanted to get BHS started. We wanted to get that first phase of that GMP scheduled. It's May 5th, 6th today, and we're at a point where we're going to close down 12th and Morrow on May 19th. We didn't want, a week and a half to go after we did Phase 2. So a couple months ago, we came and got that news out there. Appreciate Middle. I think Middle is going to serve us well. If I could go back and do something different, I would have started with Middle in 2019. I'm sure the district and the community would have appreciated that more. Here we are, halfway through. I think we've got our ducks in a row. We're spending 50 plus million in Aggieville, and this is a pretty key piece of it. You've got really that majority of that red going to be accomplished in the next 18 months. Morrow is on the horizon. Morrow is going to be a tough decision for this community, the district. There's a lot of interest on what Morrow is going to be when it grows up. We're going to get that opportunity in 2026 to weigh in on design and start construction at the tail end of these phases. So you have multiple action items tonight. They are surrounded, both Phase 3 and Phase 4, financially. The GMP for Phase 2, just over $7.8 million. I know BHS is here this evening. I believe staff's ready to answer any questions you may have on the topic.
Jason, I have a question. So the resolution 050625E has a budget that's significantly larger than what we've been seeing. Is that because of the addition of Laramie Street and the alley work?
So the GMP that we approved back in February of that 5.4 million was bonded at about 6.5 million. That is now being incorporated into one bond resolution. So we're amending that February bond resolution to today's to combine both Phase 1 and Phase 2 of this project financially.
Okay, and the increase in the GMP that we saw going from, all right, so just walk me through this a little bit.
You bet.
We have Phase 1 with a GMP of 5.4 million.
Yep.
We have Phase 2 with a GMP of 7.9 million. So that's 8 and 6 is 14. And then the resolution tonight is 15 point something, I think.
I believe it's actually 17. Let me pull it up here. 15.773.
Yeah. So that's incorporating Phase 1, Phase 2, and this additional street work and infrastructure.
It is. It's the 5.4 million and it's the 7.8 million. The rest of the fees associated with the bond resolution are incorporating our bonding fees, our temporary note fees. So there's a series, and we add a 10% contingency in that amount as well. So all three of those things are adding up to, in addition to the GMPs, to total that 15.7 million.
And does it also include the personal services agreement with Bartlett and West?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
It does.
And Jason, in July, we got the 30% plan, and this falls, that GMP is actually right under what they told us, wasn't it? But that was that full complete, okay.
Correct. Yep. We've had a couple updates in the past. BHS has done a great job with their estimating and delivering projects as described.
Yeah, I'm impressed that it's fallen so close.
It's expensive. We're ripping out everything. We got new water lines going every which direction in this infrastructure. Those water lines are from 1910. It'll be very interesting to see what they actually find in the ground. I know Dennis and the businesses experience a lot of line breaks when we have extreme temperatures. So we're bringing in a redundancy, which is a secondary line in Aggieville. They'll be able to be served from a couple different ways in the event we do have future line breaks. So we're excited to be able to serve the district in a much greater capacity than we have before.
Isn't there a tunnel under 12th Street? I heard there was a tunnel under 12th Street.
I think if BHS finds one, we're all gonna find out.
Maybe we'll find Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah.
You thinking of the tunnel in case?
And just for folks who are paying attention, Evergy will be down in Aggieville this Sunday night at 11 o'clock, and they will be shutting power off to businesses in and around the district to remove the overhead that is on 12th today. So that is part of this project as well.
And how long is that outage expected to be?
3 to 4 hours, so by 1, 2 in the morning. So your alarm will just be shut off, and you'll have, hopefully folks will take into account. They're all supposed to get door knockers. The businesses have been notified, I believe. I saw.
They started that the last couple of days.
Okay. And Dennis sent out a great message earlier this week, but I know Evergy was in last week and told us they would be going door to door with knockers as well.
All the ice cream's gonna melt in Cold Stone.
They're not gonna be affected.
Oh, okay.
The other side of the street.
Okay.
I just had one question. After her presentation, it said Triangle Park 2028. I thought we just fixed up Triangle Park.
Triangle Park has an opportunity if the governing body chooses to reinvest in it. We did do some sidewalk work
Yeah.
and some edge work there along the North Manhattan side
Great
of
work
things.
and
There was a vision there. It's completely discretionary to the community and the commission ultimately to see if they want to take that any further. There were concepts about, even Little Moro being more of a plaza. It's really rounding out. And we got permission from K-State. It's actually K-State property in Triangle Park, but we did get permission from them to look at some alternatives, but we would need to talk with them a little bit more too.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else for Jason? Is there any public comment on this item? None? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute amendment number 3 for the construction manager at risk agreement, and as follows.
Second.
Brenda, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Adamczyk,
Yes.
Commissioner Opelt,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Commissioner Minton.
Yes.
Motion carries 5 to 0.
Okay. Now we're going to discuss rezoning the Unger Complex at 2323 Anderson Avenue. And I will just remind you, this is only to deal with the rezoning.
Good evening, Stephanie Peterson, Director of Community Development. As the mayor just introduced the item, we're looking at 2323 Anderson Avenue, more commonly known as the Unger Complex. The applicant has applied to rezone the property from BC, Business Commercial, to RH, which is a high-density residential district. This is the site that is requested to be rezoned. So when we look at our future land use map, which was adopted in 2015 as part of our comprehensive plan, it identified this site as Office Research Park. That actually doesn't correlate with the underlying zoning district and how it's zoned today. Office Research Park allows some sort of industrial use, which we would likely not recommend to be adjacent to any sort of residential use. So when we look at our future land use map, I can't speak to why we showed this as Office Research Park, but when we jump to the zoning map, it is reflective of what's there today. It's business commercial. This is a compatible zoning district with the surrounding residential. So at this commercial district, if it were to stay, it would have some sort of landscape screening requirement entirely around that site to kind of have this transition area back to the residential neighborhood. But this evening, we are talking about rezoning this site to RH, a high-density residential district. RH is also compatible with other densities of residential. So it was staff's recommendation to support this rezoning. It did go before the planning board a couple of weeks ago, and the planning board recommended approval 423. There were several comments that were made, many of which I believe that you will hear this evening, and some of those comments were also included in your packet. With that, I will be happy to address any questions that you may have. We also have the applicant here this evening who can answer any questions as well. I will just remind you that we don't conditionally rezone a property, so even though there is a proposed project and use, and I had one other slide. Even though we have a proposed project in use, we cannot guarantee that that project will look how it's presented to you right now. So that's why I included this slide. This just gives you an idea of all the permitted uses that would be allowed under business commercial as it is zoned today. So if the property owner could go and pull a building permit for any of these uses that are in that kind of purple pinkish box, the high density residential district actually has the number of permitted uses is much more limited, as you can see there. There are certain limited uses or conditional uses that are in both districts. I did not include those in here. It would have taken several different slides to go through them. But I just wanted to give you an idea of what could be pulled today with a building permit under the existing district, and then what the requested district, the uses are.
The fourth bullet in business commercial permitting, that's live work? Is that like a commercial first floor, residential above?
Exactly.
Okay.
Is there any restrictions on the time of usage? Could someone set up a 24-hour facility if it fits one of these businesses?
Yeah, they could. We don't generally restrict the
Time of
operational
day,
hours. Yes,
operational hours.
sometimes in PUDs we will.
So, okay.
On the high-density second bullet, multifamily residential, 3 to 18 units.
Yes, so the way so single-family residential would be, I see what you're saying. So that should be 18 plus units. So single-family residential attached would be like duplexes, townhomes. Those are from 2 to 18 units. So that should have said the 3-2 should have been removed. It should have just been 18 plus, which is like a larger multifamily type of structure.
Okay, so.
Or you could also
Is
have a
that-
multifamily, like a apartment building that only has 3 units. That would be rather odd, but I guess you could see that.
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions?
My only other statement would be, it's in the AIS, so I'll just briefly go over it. But if you, let's see, if you deviate from the planning board's recommendation and their findings, the planning board did make the findings that were included in the staff report. In the AIS are 7 different factors that you just need to cite which of those factors supports your reason for deviating from the planning board's recommendation.
Do you have the golden rules there that you could pull up?
I could. We don't have the golden rules, but we do have the rezoning factors. I'll make them a little bigger. So it would be, excuse me, these 7 factors are what are used in the staff report to evaluate a rezoning request. The planning board is also should make their findings based on these factors, and then as well as the commission, if you were to deviate from what either the planning board's recommendation was or the factors as in the found in the staff report.
And Stephanie, what if it were zoned medium? You know, you can have low residential, medium, this is high. What would that allow?
Up to 18 units.
So
Or maybe it's 17. I think the cutoff's 17, and then
Okay.
above that is 18 is
So this is 18
larger.
and above.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Yeah, medium is up to 17.
Is that up to 18 per lot?
Correct.
So if someone could fit 18 on, maybe if they, I mean.
They could subdivide this lot several
Right,
different
that's-
times and then have,
Yeah, that is very hypothetical. So, yeah, okay. Interesting.
Any additional questions for me, or do you have any questions for the applicant? They're here this evening.
Do we have any questions for the applicant?
What will that area that's not being rezoned, that's part of that property, just stay as?
It would just stay
It would just
under
stay as
BC right now.
BC? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Is it just, sorry, is it just that very small triangle there? What is?
Yes, so K-State currently owns this tract right here. I cannot speak to whether that's going to be part of the transaction for the project. The applicant could speak to that, but it is not part of the rezoning request, so it was not included as part of the presentation.
Perhaps the applicant could speak to that.
Sure.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Fred Merrill, 3305 West 121st Terrace, Leawood, Kansas. I am the co-developer of the proposed development, along with Jake Mooney here. Jake and I are both K-State graduates. The last 3 years of my career, I've been solely focused on tax credit residential development. Prior to that, I was doing retail and office development. Jake here, for the majority of his career, has been involved in tax credit residential development, has done 40 plus of these developments, 12 of which have been historic projects. Our proposed development would consist of 106 units total. It'd be 70 units in the existing Unger building and 36 units in a newly constructed building to the west of the Unger building. We started looking at the data. There was the city conducted a housing study called the Housing Market Analysis, and I'll spare you from getting too much into the data, but basically the gist of the study was that Manhattan is in need of workforce housing. In comparison to its peers and other regional cities, it actually sits on the upper end in terms of median home value. These cities being Lawrence, Fayetteville, Lincoln, Columbia, Stillwater. Manhattan since 2010 has been pretty successful in comparison to these regional peers in attracting younger workforce professionals, the early workforce, which is like that 25 years to 34 years, and that family age, which is 35 to 50. So it's outpaced the broader region in this area. However, housing is becoming more and more unattainable. This sentiment has been echoed with the Manhattan Housing Authority, who we've had discussions with. Everybody here knows pretty much the history of this building. Was built originally in 1954 for the Kansas Farm Bureau with an addition in 56, and the 6-story tower was built in 73. Then the Farm Bureau moved their new headquarters off of Sethchild in 1987, and it became the home of the foundation until 2016. And then the university used it as extra offices. Currently, the building is in significant need of remediation. There are tons of environmental hazards, asbestos. We are actually in the process, because of its history and its mid-century design, the building is eligible for historic tax credits, state and federal. So we are in the process of
pursuing those tax credits, and with those tax credits, that provides the resources to do the remediation and preserve this building. You know, because of the federal and state LIHTC credits, because this would be a workforce housing project, we are required to own and maintain this development for 15 years. We receive the credits over a period of 10 years to ensure that we keep the property to the highest of standards. We have spoken to Superintendent Eric Reed to see if this addition of housing could negatively affect enrollment capacity of nearby schools, and he stated that it would not. Thank you very much for your consideration on our proposal to rezone the Unger Complex, and would be happy to take any questions you have.
Thank you. Questions?
Yes, sorry, Fred, I was wondering what you were planning to do with that bit of the property that is not being requested for rezoning.
So right now, the plan is the university would retain that corner. Depending on what happens with, again, I don't want to get into an Anderson Improvements discussion, but, you know, maybe they could donate the land or, you know, but right now the plan is for them to retain that land.
Thanks.
Will you have adequate parking if you extend on the back and do not have that parking space?
I'm sorry?
Will you have adequate parking if you extend, you said you're going to have 36 in the new building, which has got to go someplace.
Right.
Without the parking that's there, will you?
Yeah, we're going to have 220 parking stalls.
Okay. Questions, John?
Yes, you're going for the historic tax credits. That's the only tax credits that you're going for this project?
Well, the LIHTC credits,
So you're going for the low income?
well, those have been received, yes.
So you have received those? So
Yes.
these will be classified as, or
We
Local.
probably want to keep our questions just to the zoning question, and not talk about conditions of the project.
thank you for that, because I didn't see that in the application, so that's why I'd asked the question.
That it? I think we have some public that would like to comment. Remember, keep it to 3 minutes. And just come up and give your name and address, and then sign in with Brenda. What? Oh, sorry.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Ken Ebert, 1218 Leon
You
Ridge,
said first. Where's my-
Manhattan.
I knew he was on.
Ensure compliance with the comprehensive land use plan. That was a charge given to me in 2016 by then Mayor McCullough as my duty when first appointed me to the planning board. As I detailed in an email sent to all of you last week, I outlined my...
I gotta interrupt you, Ken. I don't know that this is appropriate for you to come up and talk about what you've said in public at the board during your service. I know you're not on the board currently, but you were on the board when this decision was made.
I was, yes.
And I'm not sure that it's appropriate for you to be further discussing what you did at the board at our meeting. Is that?
I see you looking at me, Commissioner. My name tag says Catherine Jackson. This is actually the Deputy City Attorney, Rachel Shirk. For public comment, we don't have restrictions on that. I can understand the spirit of your comment, but we don't have a rule that would prohibit this public comment.
Okay. My apologies, Ken.
All right. Well, let me just suffice to say that at that time, I did not find this application to be in compliance with the comprehensive plan. And that was the reason I voted not to recommend approval. I'm sure you're enamored by the potential this rezoning has to provide a large number of workforce housing units.
ever since the adoption of the housing market analysis study identified need for such, the provision of workforce housing has begun to take over as the single most influential criterion for approval of the residential rezonings to come before the planning board, even when the request was otherwise non-compliant. Approval of these rezonings solely based on workforce housing is setting a risky precedent and almost guarantees citywide intrusions of increased densities in established low-density neighborhoods. We all know precedents are difficult to overturn. The area around the Unger site is a 70-year-old stable neighborhood of single-family housing. Some residents have lived there for over 60 years. In a windshield survey of the neighborhood, I saw well-maintained homes and property. I didn't see any of the typical indicators of a neighborhood in decline or transition. This neighborhood is not a target for redevelopment. Even so, established neighborhoods can be very sensitive to change, especially a high-density spot zoning of the magnitude of this request. It makes no sense to purposely insert one type of neighborhood at the expense of another. Over 60% of the homeowners sent or signed letters stating their opposition to this rezoning. None have stated their approval. If this were an election, it would be hailed a landslide. Many of them have said, they won't listen to us, and even worse, it's a done deal. Based on recent comments heard and observation of on-site activity, those thoughts are not unfounded. This doesn't have to be a done deal, or for that matter, the only deal. What's the urgency? Surely there's time to search for a compromise. The applicant has previously stated that less density is not economically feasible. But with all the available incentives, grants, programs, tax abatements, and credits, along with some creative thinking, certainly there should be something that can make for a viable alternative to reduce the high-density zoning to something within the low to medium density as designated on the future land use map for the surrounding area. I'm asking you to vote no to the rezoning. But if you won't do that, can you at least hold off your decision? Wait for this applicant or someone else to develop a plan with a viable alternative to high density, a plan the neighborhood will support and still address housing needs. In other words, one that will ensure compliance with a comprehensive land use plan. Thank you.
Can I have a follow-up question for you?
I'm sorry?
I have a follow-up question for you. I have a follow-up question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you share evidence that you have that high-density development destabilizes neighborhoods?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have some people who have already signed up. So, Mr. Starling, that's you. Great, thank you.
Could I have a show of hands besides me and Ken who are here concerning this project? Thank you. My name is Bill Hughes. I live at 2314 Indian Mound Lane. My house,
He's number 4.
that's right up, I'm at the end of the street. My house is right next to the parking lot on the north side of the road. The one concern I have is with, one of the concerns is the flow of that water off Indian Mound Lane, make sure that doesn't happen. In 1966, I started work in that building, and then after the June 8th tornado, we had to relocate, and we purchased that property and moved in July of 1966. We've lived there ever since. I'm concerned about the new building that's going to be proposed there. Is there going to be a local workforce doing it? How many people? Are there going to be balconies? Am I going to have live music and parties facing my house? Is there going to be floodlights out there? Is there going to be traffic all hours of the night going around that building right next to my house? That's my concern at this point. A lot of people have other concerns, which you'll probably hear. The proposed timeline for this, that's a condensed neighborhood. The Anderson project, from what I understand, could happen at the same time. So there's another confusing thing. And I'm not sure what's going on. However, I guess the thing is, if it comes to the end and finished, maybe I'll downsize and move in. Thank you.
I have Mr. Weisbunder signed up next. Is he in? He left? Okay. Okay, and Mr. Chris Denchen? Yeah, that's right. Okay.
I know it's a hard name, but I've been here several times.
Sorry.
And I do want to thank you. I do know that you guys get a lot of grief and a lot of pressures put on you to make these decisions and stuff, but we do appreciate it, and we really want your sincere deal and want you to be thinking if this was in your backyard.
Chris, could you just give us your name
Oh,
again?
I'm sorry. My name is Chris Deachin,
Deachin. And your address?
2315 Indian Mound Lane, and I've lived there since 1973.
Okay, thank you.
And you know, I was young in the workforce too, and I bought a house that I could afford. Always wanted one a little bit better, but I just could never get it. It just always went the next step higher. And nobody's funded my paychecks. I bought that house with working a couple of jobs and stuff. You know, I don't really know that I appreciate my tax dollars going to help somebody else get into their housing. Are they working as hard as I had to work? You know, and if they are, that's okay. I maybe help them then. And I'm not opposed to helping people, but sometimes we've got to help ourselves. And the government can't do everything for us. I don't know. One thing about, I know we can't discuss necessarily the Anderson project, but I can't see how you can make a decision as important as this is. It's right on that corner of our area. We only come and go on Timber Lane and Bellhaven. That's the only way in, the only way out. This is kind of, and it's right in our front of our corner of our area. And I was going to ask you if you did read the letters, Bill's and mine, made a letter, and we also showed you the signatures and have put some work into this, but I run into everything that I tried to work to find how we could change things, kept running me in either circles or dead end places, because it almost seems like it's I'm not able to change the world. I kind of feel like I'm David trying to slay the giant, and it gets really irritating a little bit. But like I said, some of the people down here at the city did try to help me as much as they could, but so I'm about done there. So just the main thing is there was a 8-year-old boy. I was talking to his dad when he was saying he was going to light a lighter because he couldn't get her today, and the little 8-year-old boy said, "Dad, could I go read that letter for you? I like riding my bike, and there's not traffic and stuff around this neighborhood. That's why we all live there." So thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What was traffic like when that parking lot was full of employees at the Farm Bureau?
And Farm Bureau is really good. The establishment Farm Bureau made those people come and go at a little different intervals, and it was more at 8, 7:30 to 8,
But everybody would come in at about the same time and leave at about the same time?
no, they spread them out some.
Like
They
8
staggered.
and 8:30 or something like
Yeah.
that? So what,
Like every 15 minutes or something like that.
were there ever like traffic jams or anything like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Like I say, I worked in that building 23 years. And, of course, I never drove to work because I lived right behind it. But what they did,
Mr. Hughes, I don't think you can come
Yeah,
back
I
up,
think we-
unfortunately,
Well,
sir. I'm sorry, I don't mean to censor. We just have to be fair.
he was there.
Well,
Well,
I think that Peter's looking for information that
Oh, that might have been my
valuable
overstep
to
then.
know.
I was trying to answer your question.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
if
I'm
you'd
sorry,
like to
Mr.
come up,
Hughes.
go ahead. Yeah.
but anyway, back in the day,
I know.
when we had full capacity, of course,
people was leaving work and driving around Wildcat Ridge and coming out. And so the residents didn't like that, of course. So what the company done, they made off of Bellhaven an entrance only so that people couldn't come all the way around and come in.
Okay.
from
Did they,
different areas.
did they have phased leavings and comings too? Did people come and leave at different times?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. Yeah, the shift started anywhere from 7 and,
Okay,
you know.
thank you.
Like I said, I really didn't have a major traffic problem.
Okay.
Which wasn't that many people in Manhattan at that point when I was.
think
Okay.
Was information that Peter
Thank
knew.
And also, it was Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sundays was open, and in the evenings, after 5, there was no.
Thank you. Now, we have no other people signed in officially, but you can come up. Oh, I thought he wanted last.
Amber, did you?
She wants to go last.
Okay.
You just told me that.
Okay, am I good? Okay. Good evening. My name is Brittany Petty, and I live at 2323 Indian Mound Lane. So, right by Chris. So our street dead ends to the west side of the Unger Complex parking lot, or it will be where the proposed additional 36 units would be. My husband and I bought our house in 2016. We've since added 3 children and 1 German Shepherd. We hope to stay in our house forever. We love our home because of the home itself, but we also, more importantly, love our neighborhood. We love the location, we love the school that our children attend. We hope to stay there forever. The kids can run outside, ride their bikes in the street, in the parking lot, go down the street to their friend's house, which today I feel like is kind of a rare thing to be able to do in your neighborhood. I want to preserve the way of our current neighborhood, so I attended the previous city planning board meeting last month in hopes to help persuade the board to vote against the rezoning of Unger Complex to the high-density residential. I do want to thank the 3 board members that voted against the rezoning mostly because it felt like they actually listened to the neighborhood and what we were saying when they cast their vote. The other board members, I don't feel like they truly listened to our concerns. We were told that Manhattan needs more affordable housing, and that's why it should be rezoned. I don't think anybody here disagrees with the fact that Manhattan needs more affordable housing, but that's not what the meeting was strictly about. The meeting was about whether or not it makes sense to rezone the Unger Complex to high-density residential housing. Personally, I don't feel that it does. We were also told at that meeting that our neighborhood or way of living won't be significantly impacted, as there will be buffer zones. When asked for an example of a buffer zone, one couldn't be given because there aren't any that currently exist, and ours would be the first. How can you say that this buffer zone will help prevent any significant change to our neighborhood and way of living when there's not currently any examples in our city to refer to? We were also told that we should be on board with this rezoning because it could be something worse, as it could be zoned up for 200 apartments instead of the 106 that are in the current project proposal. I don't know about you, but I don't think I should be on board with something just because another option could be worse. We've all expressed our previous concerns about the current traffic area on Anderson, which I know we're not really addressing tonight, but I feel like even with those improvements, fixing those and then adding additionally another neighborhood in the middle of it is still going to create more problems. In summary, I'm here tonight to state that I'm against the rezoning of Unger Complex and to ask that you really consider how you would be voting for tonight in this rezoning if this was taking place in your backyard, in which it is in some of ours.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You want to sign in over here, please? Other people wishing to speak on this topic?
Can I go ahead? I'm Marty Courtois. I live at 2126 College Heights Road. And it was referenced earlier that the future land use map of the Manhattan Urban Area Comprehensive Plan designated this area as office research land use. which doesn't seem to quite jive with the business commercial use, so I'm a little confused there. But looking at the permitted uses under business commercial, that's a long list of possibilities, including catering, commercial kitchen, live work, which was questioned earlier, government office, drugstore without a drive-through, drugstore with a drive-through, post office, place of assembly. So it looks like this would give much more flexibility in terms of the land use of that property, where under high density is really pretty limited just to high density. So I know someone spoke earlier about keeping it business commercial seems to give more opportunity for developments in the future. So I don't really see any benefit to changing it to high density at this point. And certainly some of the people concerned about the direct impact in their neighborhood, I think, are really the most important points. So thank you.
Thank you. Make sure you sign in over there. Other speakers?
John Random, 2308 Hillview Drive. This will be on the topic this time. First meeting, so
That's
please
okay.
excuse me. I'm just curious as like the process that's going on here. So right now what it is the topic of discussion is whether to approve the rezoning. Is that correct?
Yes.
But yet there's no discussion in regards to what that's going to look like for the future. I mean, that's the camel sticking its nose underneath the tent. No
So-
ifs, ands, or buts about it.
State statute requires that we do not conditionally zone an item, so we can only consider the zoning and the zoning only, and its permitted uses. We can't consider a specific project for zoning. So when we make our decision, we need to make that decision based only on the information of the zoning.
Okay. In regards to reference, what you had inquired about, I believe it was effects of population density. I did law enforcement for 27 years. Part of that was as a crime analyst. Just look at your calls for service. Where are they at? Are your calls for service from law enforcement, first responders, are they in the neighborhoods or are they in your higher density areas? So I would recommend that you go and look at that, see how that impact is going to be on the residents that live in that quiet neighborhood.
Thank you. Would you like to?
Yes, ma'am.
Other speakers?
I'm Mary Chris Robertson. I live at 2120 College Heights Road, and I hadn't planned to speak, but I have a few things to say. My neighbor, Marty, those of us north of Anderson Avenue are very concerned about this project as well, and we are here in support of our neighbors surrounding the Unger Complex. It's kind of a little forgotten pocket of town because everyone zips through on Anderson and hits that curve, but I think it's a very quiet pocket of town, and we like it that way. We want to keep it as a low-density housing area. I really appreciated Ken Ebert's remarks in the planning board meetings, and I made several notes of things I've been thinking about all this time is how do you have a high-density residence in a place that has very few services around it? I don't know if you've ever seen people walking back up Anderson with their groceries, but they walk downhill to Dillon's and they walk uphill with their groceries. There are no services in that area for people who may not have adequate transportation. And so that's something to consider for the type of people. You have to walk to Walgreens, that's pretty close, and there's a couple other places, but then you're quite a distance, to get to some other services, even like city services and all kinds of things like that. So that's something I think we need to consider. And as Ken said, it just seems like an odd placement for something like this. And I echo so many of the other responses of the people in the surrounding neighborhood, and I would urge you to not approve this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of you put your hands up. You want to, please.
I'm Sarah Silva. I live at 2210 College Heights Road. And I urge you not to rezone Unger. I've lived in this area my entire life. I mean, that block area my entire life. And the impact of it when it was Unger or when it was Farm Bureau is nothing compared to what this high-density apartment complex effect will have on everyone. I'm also curious, has a cultural or historic impact assessment been done for this neighborhood, given its long-standing residents? And why is this particular site being prioritized for high-density housing over other available commercial lots closer to campus or already rezoned this high-density thing? This is really going to negatively impact this long-standing residency. So I urge you to not rezone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amber Myers, 1001 College Avenue. I'm going to be short and sweet because everyone else has made a great point. I don't want this in my neighborhood. We have a wonderful, peaceful neighborhood that's already seeing some impacts of a little bit more traffic, of concerning behavior. That's just the beginning. If we put a high-density building a block from these gorgeous neighborhoods, you're going to ruin our property values. You're going to ruin the aesthetics. And I don't think this is the appropriate place. So I am adamantly against having this in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Question.
Yes.
What makes you say that your property values will go down?
What makes you think they won't?
Because there is evidence that actually shows that property values actually increase after high-density
I
development
think
occurs.
that the money in the pocket of the applicant will increase. I don't think it will benefit me or my family or my neighbors in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
I would like that to be considered, that this is a money-making scheme by someone. It is not in the best interest of the population who lives there. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's keep it cool. Anybody else? Are we?
Hi there, Casey Kyle Wilkinson, 2326 Indian Mound. I did send all of you an email yesterday, which I know that some of you have been flooded, so I apologize. A couple of things that I do want to bring up past my email and some of the things that were brought up tonight. I also have lived in this neighborhood, not only in the Indian Mound area, but I've literally moved from Elling Drive right across the street, Anderson, to behind this. I have enjoyed the quietness of our neighborhood. I've enjoyed our neighbors. I've enjoyed the fact that we've all come together on this issue. One of the biggest things that I want you to think about is, as an office building or even as a commercial business, our hours are not going to be the same as a high-density residential housing. We're all going to have to leave at approximately the same time. We're all going to have to come home at approximately the same time. Traffic is a huge issue already getting onto Anderson. The second thing that I want you to think about is, yes, I have consulted with my realtor. Our housing will go down because we are no longer a quiet neighborhood for young families. We are now a neighborhood impacted by lots of traffic. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Gary Oles. I live at 3308 Frontier Circle. Commissioner Ophelt, you prompted me to come up here because I'm confused on something. I think I understand what you said about state statute, that you have to just deal with the zoning from one zone to another zone. What I don't understand in that context is, why did this discussion at some point in the beginning talk about workforce housing? Because
there's a disconnect here. It's about high density, but now it's about workforce, and we're not supposed to talk about the workforce. And then we find out it's about a low-income tax credit. And if you know low-income tax credits, the way they work is for 15 years, he has to keep certain number of properties at below market and above, which I don't want to get into that. But
Gary,
the
you're
point is-
correct. We should not be talking about low-income tax credits or workforce housing. We are talking about the zoning.
Right, and that's why it was brought up, but, okay, that's what I want to clarify. I don't have a dog in the hunt, because I don't live in the neighborhood, but I'm just trying to understand the zoning, and I've never served on that.
Gary, it's a number of the public comments that have made reference to the housing. The commissioners have not at this point.
No,
Well,
he made
I
a
mean,
comment. He
I
made the
did.
comment.
The point is, we have to base our decision not on the development.
Right.
It's not like taboo to say something, but our decision needs to be based on just whether it's high density
Right.
or not.
It's the same thing as Scenic Drive that went in years ago with those apartments on the west side of Scenic Drive. You zoned it for high density, or I assume it is high density, and it ended up being low-income tax credit housing, which is okay.
There's no guarantee after we change the zoning what's gonna be built. That's why we can't take into consideration. There,
He said he's already got the approved. Okay, I got it. Sorry.
Danielle, could you chime in here? We have had a request to change the zoning.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
No,
No.
we are not.
okay, let's don't get into back and forth.
So I think to the point is once this property is rezoned, the applicant is most likely to move forward with the project that they are discussing. However, we cannot predict the future, predetermine. There could be a change in market, there could be a change in their financing opportunities, there could be changes, and once this property is rezoned, that is true. Like, something else could go in there. And of course, if they decided not to build and it remained as it is, after the rezoning, it would be a non-conforming use at that point. Depending on the use of that building. But then if something different were to come in, then another application for a different type of rezoning would have to come through, so.
Okay. So we're just talking about going from business commercial to high-density residential,
Correct.
okay? Please come forward if you want to.
Mayor McCullough, while the next person approaches the podium, I would just let you know that we are approaching the 30 minutes. So if you all are interested in continuing to receive public comment, we will need a motion after this last speaker.
Yeah, I was going to do that. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Carol Baldwin. I live at 755 College Heights Circle. I feel like you've heard many good reasons tonight for not granting the rezoning. As was stated, even if this falls through, the rezoning will, and the rezoning is approved, anything up to the maximum number of apartments could go in there. So it could be even more than what we've discussed. So I consider that this is not a good fit for the neighborhood and does not fall within some of the items that were listed in the zoning considerations at the beginning of this session. Thank you.
Thank you.
You need to take a vote to continue.
I'm going to let Mel speak, and then I'm going to take a break.
Just a quick question. My name's Mel Borstedt from 1918 Humboldt Street. If we're just talking about high-density zoning and this parcel of land, how many units, the maximum amount of units, would be allowed to, as a right if you rezone this tonight? And based on that, has there been any study about the effects or the consequences on the neighborhood, such as drainage, taxes, livability of the neighborhood, and so forth? What are the so-called findings of facts that our planners have given you? Are they based on the maximum amount of units that could be placed on this parcel. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie, could you answer that? It's 18 plus. Is there a top limit?
No, we'll have to do some math over here in the corner real quick, because we do have a minimum square footage per unit, and then for each additional unit over that, there's another so many square feet that you need. We'd have to look at the height that building can be to see how many floors. So
there are limits.
there are limits. It's just not like a 20 unit max or something like that.
Yeah.
It's based on the density of that site.
Okay.
So that's where it's really difficult to give you a straight answer. And there's certain things like 50% of the site cannot be covered with the building. So that's where if you want an exact number, it's going to
Sure.
take us a little while to work through
But I
that.
think it's important just to stress that there is it's not a finite number.
Correct, yes.
Right, and you
Stephanie?
would have to still review everything and review drainage and review utilities, and all of it would have to work before any site plans would be approved, or units or numbers or anything else. Even if a zoning said it could be X, I would think all those other things would have to be true as well in order
Absolutely.
to go through with whatever number it was.
Yeah, we will have to look at, so the rezoning just establishes the use. After that, either it goes to plating or it goes to a building permit. And that's when we work through all of the details, and every single department in the city has an opportunity to look at that and apply their rules or regulations.
And I know we're not commingling our projects tonight, but I just want to underscore that part of the road work will include replacing infrastructure that will be addressing some of these concerns in terms of water capacity, drainage, et cetera.
Correct, that's an independent project that the city's doing.
Okay, now, we're going to take a break. It's almost 8 o'clock, and I think people are,
But before we go on break, I would like to make a motion to extend our public comment time.
Second. Do we have to have
I
a
was going
time?
to do
Do we have
that
to-
after we come back from break, because I was going to check
I
and
would
see.
start with another 30 minutes. That would be
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to extend our public comment time for another 30 minutes.
Second.
Brenda, would you call the roll?
I can answer the question about.
Wait, let's let Brenda call the roll so we can extend.
Commissioner Adamczyk,
Yes,
Commissioner Opelt,
Yes?
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Commissioner Minton,
Yes.
Mayor McCullough,
Yes,
motion carries 5-0.
okay, now,
Do you want to take a break, or are you going to take?
have you got 3 minutes worth?
No, I'm going to get you a break if you want one. I'm just going to put up, you're going to be back in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
You're
take a 10-minute break, be back at 8:10. What?
Can we just make it a round up? Oh, that's a 12-minute break.
I was making it,
Detail. Say a break until 10 after. This meeting is in recess.
We have extended the public We have extended the public comment portion. Could you see a show of hands of how many people still would like to comment? Well, that's easy. Amber, go ahead.
Please. Thank you.
Sorry, you get my giant laptop again? Okay. Amber Starling, 408 Houston Street. First, I'd like to bring some broader knowledge of the subject. Single-family detached housing has the least return on investment of any zoning type and density across the U.S., often running at a loss. We have the technology to calculate tax revenue versus costs, and single-family detached is bankrupting cities. Higher density residential, mixed use, and commercial zoning often make up the difference. Now to bring it locally. Manhattan is at 2/3 of its debt limit and consistently, albeit marginally over budget. We have some real world challenges here to face. We're landlocked. Even if we weren't, infill developing up is less expensive than greenfill expanding out. And contractors can't fill workforce housing needs with new construction due to labor and materials costs. Renovations are the most viable option to house blue-collar Americans and young professionals. That means that projects like this are essential to Manhattan's financial future and working families' ability to continue to live and work here. Those new welders out by the animal shelter will be able to afford up to a 2-bedroom apartment here. If we want made in America manufacturing, we need places that those welders can afford to live. My heart hurts for the residents who are facing a sense of confusion, upheaval, and uncertainty. You've paid taxes for 50+ years, and it sucks that we now know and only now have the technology to know that those taxes are not keeping Manhattan afloat. Change is hard, and you're worried that your property values will go down. For what it's worth, the research that I've done indicates that they won't. Property values rise when apartments are built in the neighborhood, especially when one or more of the following factors come into play. The building fits well into the landscape. This is a gut and remodel of an existing building that was designed alongside the original neighborhood with one addition. Walkability of the neighborhood improves as a result. Pedestrian-friendly infrastructure is being taken into account, and surrounding infrastructure improves. The developer has expressed a readiness to absorb infrastructure improvement costs like water lines, which the home and property value will benefit from.
You guys have continued through this entire meeting talking about conditional use.
Okay, finish up, Amber. You are not really addressing the question of zoning.
Thank you. And the access to public transportation improves. The commissioners have not addressed this. I can speak however I like. They can consider or not consider what I say based on those considerations. It appears that if you can suffer some temporary discomfort, you'll increase your children's inheritance and provide for the city's future. In regards to College Heights Baptist Church's overall objections, College Heights Baptist Church started in 1953. By 1954, they had 48 members.
Amber, what does College Heights have to do with this?
They had
She has the right
overall
to-
objections.
She has the right to express her opinion on things.
We are supposed to be talking about zoning.
Yeah. Okay, your time is up. Thank you, Amber.
Okay, so the commissioners and the audience can speak
No,
over my
just-
time.
You
Very well.
Okay. Back to facts. First of all, I need to make sure that none of the commission has any ex parte communication that would make their decisions, or would not make their decisions fair or objective or impartial.
I had met with the developers early on in the process just for them to introduce their project, but in that meeting, they did not discuss zoning. And so, again, this zoning consideration is being made by zoning only for me.
Jamie, did you have?
Same as Peter, and then I think we've all had several.
No, I did not ever meet with, I don't
No,
even meet.
oh, no, that's not what I was saying. I was saying I think we've all had several emails from individuals, and
Oh, sure.
so that part.
Yeah, I'm the same. I had the same meeting. We didn't talk about zoning. We talked about the project, got all those emails, got Ken Engelbert's letter, and which is pretty much what he said here tonight. And, yeah, it's pretty much everything that was in the emails is stuff that was said here tonight, so it's all the same information.
Susan, did you?
The same as the other three commissioners. In addition, a fellow church member spoke to me after church one day.
Okay. So, having done that, what is your pleasure? Would you like more discussion, or do you want to make a motion, or do you want to make a motion and then have discussion?
I just had some questions for Stephanie. So, in discussing this as residential high, what are the parking requirements for no matter how, yeah,
any development?
anything, yeah.
It's 0.9 parking stalls per bedroom. So again, we wouldn't know that at plating. We would know that at the building permit, and then we would check to make sure that based on the number of building or bedrooms that their site plan shows, we would make sure they have the appropriate amount of parking
I think that we,
0.9
let's
stalls.
don't
per bedroom.
venture
Per
off
bedroom.
from, Jamie, let's make sure this is a zoning question.
No, I mean, that's a
is.
zoning
That's-
question. I'm
that is
asking
a
what the
zoning.
zoning regulations are for
We have-
that, just to get a scope of from what the layout would be for any property, how much parking is required to how many units there are, or how the size of things. That would be
Correct.
for anything.
Yes.
I was just trying to get a scope of that. And then the buffer yards, that's a newer concept for us.
Yes.
What does that look like? I mean, I'm looking at this map. Are the buffer yards around the specific, like, building, like, no matter what building is, or does it have to be around the zone perimeter?
So the purpose of the buffer yard is when there is, in this case, if it were to be RH, we would have a buffer yard between the RH and the residential property to the north, to the west, and to the south. And that,
So 3 sides.
correct. So that buffer yard, there's 2 different ways that they can go. One of it is that it could be a fence, and that fence material, it can't be chain link. I mean, it has to be wood, brick, we have different materials. Or they could do like a landscaped buffer yard, and that has to be a minimum of 5 feet in width. And then we also have different requirements of height, so at least a third of the shrubbery has to be at 4 feet, so to really provide that type of buffer. The other one that we have is when there is it may not apply here, but if there's a parking lot between right-of-way, then there has to be a landscape screening so that if there's headlights, they don't shine into the right-of-way and impede somebody's driving.
Okay. And then, sir, can we please? When somebody pulls a permit for this, because we've heard discussion just for residential high, I'm assuming part of that process, traffic study, drainage studies, all of those things have to be done and they have to be in compliance.
Correct. So either it's at plating, or if they don't have to plat, then it would be at the building permit. And there is a drainage impact study that would be required, and that looks at the current impervious surface and any proposed. Right now, the site is mostly completely impervious, so that they would have to provide some sort of on-site detention to manage stormwater runoff for any development, again, in this district. And then for traffic impact study, that's really based on what the proposed use is, which is why we can't do that yet.
Okay.
And that would look at, the traffic that would be generated by that proposed use.
Okay, thank you. I think
You're welcome.
those are all my,
So would the drainage study for a development here be, like for any additional impervious surfaces, or would it just be for what they have currently? And if we say, like, they may end up having to put in a detention
They'll have
and,
to, yes.
Okay.
They'll have to manage their stormwater. They'll have to comply with our most recent regulations, even though this was developed in the 60s or whenever this
Sure.
was built. We didn't have quite those same requirements, so they will have to comply to current regulations with any building permit that is pulled for this.
okay.
Brian, did you have anything more to add? No, Stephanie got it covered. Okay.
Great, thank you.
I'm glad you have backup.
So Stephanie, basically, if we zone this RH, we are opening up this property, not just for this developer, but for any developer that wants to come to us and basically put in some kind of housing. Is that correct?
That's correct, with the
And
exception that
as-
there's some other uses that would be permitted.
What are
Like
the
a
other-
library. These are limited uses or
Yeah.
conditional, so they have additional steps to make sure that there's compatibility with like traffic. That's the main one that we look at.
But basically, the only one that's probably realistic, if it were a group home, it'd be a pretty big group home,
That would be.
is the multifamily. And basically, with this much space, according to architects I've talked to, they could go up to 200 units.
Yeah, so John did some quick math over here. Based on the amount of square footage on a lot that you have per unit, they could have about 225 maximum units. However, that is only looking at the lot area. What you also have to then consider is there's a parking requirement. So the more units they have, the more parking that is going to take up. There's a height requirement, so they can't go above 60 feet in RH. There's also setbacks from, in all sides of the property, so that would narrow the amount of space that they would have to develop. And then the last one is the maximum building coverage that you can have in the RH is 50%. So all of those things are going to further limit the number of units. We haven't calculated
Sure.
it any further than that.
But I think it's important, the audience tonight has asked, how many could there be? And that's pretty much the max 220,
Yeah, with all these, and then we would
Yeah.
start taking off all these other
with all the other things.
things that I just listed.
Okay. Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Well, I think we got some discussion, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just
Oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead and give my take on this. I don't think I'm going to make a lot of people happy in the room, but I really see it's a change in zoning from business commercial to high-density residential. And for the neighborhood, I mean, when you look at those, both could have high traffic impacts. One may have a higher one than the other. Both could have a noise impact. One could be higher than the other, depending on what that business commercial is. Hours of operation, it could be 24/7, 7 days a week, conceivably, if it's business commercial. The number of people at any point could be higher if it's high-density residential or higher if it's business commercial. Both are supposed to have some sort of buffer. I realize that the area around it is the low-density residential, and if this was already low-density residential, I'd be hard-pressed to change the zoning, and I voted against that for other rezoning requests that were close to the university and would have been fantastic developments to do for housing, but it was changing it from low to high. Here, depending on what's built, could it have an adverse impact to the neighborhood? Who's to say? We've had some people saying that the high density would actually be better. The business commercial could have, depending on what's put in there, very negative impact on the neighborhood. A farm bureau may have been very nice and accommodated people and changed their traffic flow and everything else, but they didn't have to be. And someone else who moves in doesn't have to be either. As far as fitting with the comprehensive plan, again, I'm not seeing a lot of difference what's going to happen and which one would be better or worse for it, business commercial or high-density residential. The other thing is when it comes into community need, regardless of what type of housing that comes in, by going high density, we're gonna be able to fit more housing into the community, which is one of the big things we need and one of the top priorities for the city right now. And, you know, again, I know that we have a room here filled mostly with people who do not want the development. I think from a zoning perspective, I agree with the planning board, because I don't see a lot of difference between these two. We're not taking it, as I said, from low density to high density with what's in there today. What could, depending on what's put in, could be real beneficial. If it stays currently what it is, K-State tears down the building, someone else comes in, maybe they put something that's 24/7, 7 days a week.
Well, you had your chance. No more comments, please.
The other thing, from a commission standpoint, you know, we've been trying to figure out how do we get more housing in the community. We know a lot of this would come down to zoning, and there's sometimes our hands are gonna be tied, and we're not gonna be able to. But here, I think it fits well within the zoning rules. Some would say it's close. Obviously, with the planning board, it was close because it was 4-3. But I think it definitely fits in with the parameters, and that's why I would support the change in zoning.
Thank you.
So a lot of you have mentioned how we would feel if this were happening in our backyards. I happen to live off of the corner of Seth Child and Kimball Avenue, and my backyard does back up to an apartment complex. The most noise that I hear is from my neighbors with leaf blowers who like to mow every day and blow the leaves, and they cause more disturbance to my peaceful neighborhood than the people that live in the apartment. My property value has also continued to increase since I've moved in, and really the apartments that are right in my neighborhood have not negatively affected my way of life or my neighbors. I still have a 9-year-old kid that we let run around the neighborhood. He's fine. So when I looked at these seven criteria that we have to look at, characteristics, you know, yes, it is surrounded by single family, but it is currently a large office building with a large parking lot. That's not really going to change whether we zone it, you know, with a zone and change. Consistency with the comprehensive plan. So yes, this is the future land use map does show it as office and research. If we pull up the comprehensive plan and read in table 3-1, that's on page 38 if you're following along, primary use is high quality employment facilities such as corporate office headquarters, research and development and educational facilities. Secondary use, ancillary commercial services, medium to high density residential. So yes, this does not fit in with the land use map, but it does still fit in with the text of the plan, given what we have in that plan. Adequacies of infrastructure. Again, we currently have a large building there, and any applicant would have to show that that will be adequate for a building permit. Character of the neighborhood. Generally low density, but it is right along a very busy street with Anderson Avenue there. I don't know how folks really get along that live right along Anderson Avenue. I know I certainly wouldn't want to have to try and back in and out of Anderson every day if I lived there. So maybe it is better for us to have something more high density there so folks can have that parking. Hey, you had your opportunity to talk and you chose not to, so thank you.
Let me take please.
So, and then number 6 is fulfilling a need, and we do have a need for housing, and frankly, that it fits a need. So, again, yeah, it is kind of weird, but this building, the neighborhood was platted in 1950, and this building was built in 1954. So I would say that these things came up together, this large building and this neighborhood. And I think it fits in. So, yeah, I'm going to support this.
Okay. Okay, I would just say, I know I do harp a lot about the comprehensive land use plan, but I think it's really a necessity to protect people's investment in their homes and to know what's going to happen in your immediate area. And while I would love to see the Unger building have a real purpose in life, I am concerned that we are just, again, spot zoning something to make, to sort of satisfy what we think are real needs, but don't satisfy those needs of the people who live in the area around it. So I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the first reading of ordinance rezoning 2323 Anderson Avenue from business commercial district to high-density residential district.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Would you call the roll, please, Brenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Mitten,
Yes.
Mayor McCullough,
No.
Commissioner Adamczyk.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion carries 4-1, I'm sorry.
Yep. We will move on to item C, which is considering sales tax exemption and city incentives for Excel Development Group's Amber Pointe Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Project.
Okay, the next item I have for you is for consideration of two different resolutions for the Amber Pointe Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Project. The location of the site, it's down there, very at the bottom, outlined in blue. This was to show the general kind of location of where it is. It is part of the Scenic Woods PUD that started to be developed in 2011, 2012. This is the last remaining tract. It hasn't been developed for a variety of reasons over the year, and so that is the location of the proposed LIHTC project. So the way that the LIHTC application...
Can you go back? That was the blue one, right?
Yeah, down here.
Stephanie, that's not the same area that we considered during an application last.
It actually is.
Okay. Continue with your presentation. I have a couple of questions.
Sure. So the way that the LIHTC application works at the state, when it's a 9%, I should clarify that, is that, so back in December, or actually it was in January, you provided a letter of support for them to apply, have a preliminary application with the state, and then they were invited to continue on in that process. So now at this point, they'll submit their application and the state will score their project. And if they receive a sales tax exemption from the city as well as a waiver of permit fees, it actually gives them additional points so they compete better across the entire state with other projects.
Stephanie, I am going to interrupt.
Sure.
I didn't recognize the names on this. This is not the same company that applied several months
So we've had two applications now. There was a previous developer that applied back in 2024 round, and they did not decide to move forward.
They didn't advance their application.
Correct. So this is a new applicant that has been invited to submit a formal application for the 2025 round. And so and this approach is consistent with the other LIHTC projects that are 9% that we've had previously. So the sales tax exemption, and then also they're requesting waiving the building permit fee, and you can see the value there. And then for the city connection or the connection fees for utilities, we would use the workforce housing sales tax if that's the direction the commission wants to go to pay for that. And so you can see what their total request is there at the bottom.
I'm just curious, is there a reason we waive the building permit fee but pay the connection fees, or is there an option to?
You have an option. It's up to your discretion.
Isn't it like an ordinance or something like that we have that we don't waive connection fees?
Correct.
I was
For
more
the-
asking if we,
The building permit fee you can waive, or you can pay out a workforce
Thank
housing
you.
sales tax. The connection fee, we have to find another funding source to make that, the utility fund whole.
My understanding is that the state just recently did away with the 6% LIHTC grants.
Maybe 4%.
Or 4%. Are we facing, or is the developer facing any concerns about this part of it going away as well?
So the developer is joining us via Teams this evening. So he would be able to answer that question. I can't speak on his financial interests there. So the proposed project, and again, the developer can speak a little bit further, it would be a 40-unit apartment building. And it really was just looking kind of at this east, or the western half of the lot. With another phase, they could develop the eastern part.
Sorry, Steph.
You're okay.
So if I recall correctly, one of the issues with the previous application, or maybe one even prior to that, is that the city was stipulating that the developer construct a road going from that complex up to either Miller Parkway or one of the other connectors over there.
It's this road right here. You can see that it's platted.
And is that a condition of this application at all?
It would not be. So after that project went through, we reevaluated the PUD that was done back in 2012. And it's a little, the way that it's written is a little confusing, but we determined that that roadway does not actually have to be constructed with the first phase. It was, again, the way the ordinance reads and then the way the preliminary development plan reads, it kind of creates some confusion there, but our ultimate determination was that it would not need to be connected. However, I will add, if this project is awarded or is funded by the state, the applicant would have to come back before us to either amend the PUD or to rezone the property, since this is not what the original PUD had intended. It was still multifamily, it just wasn't this specific project. That is the extent of the information I have for you, unless you have additional questions. Also, if you want the applicant to answer any, he should be able to hear us and to speak.
Okay. Any questions for Stephanie or the applicant?
So is this just for phase one right now?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, just the 40, it would be a 40-unit apartment building
Okay.
on the western part of this site.
That's interesting. They've got this plan not to go all the way up the hill, but to connect the road from the other side.
Where?
I'm in the application, or IRB, LIHTC incentive request.
Do you want me to pull that up?
Yeah. Yeah, number 3.
Hunter Drive?
Yeah. They just
what was
got,
your statement, Peter?
well, it's just interesting. They've got Hunter Drive just going around the back of the phase one, and instead of going all the way up the hill, which from what I understand was part of the cost prohibition.
Correct.
They're just gonna connect the second phase to,
To the existing
the
road.
existing road on the other side of the hill, which is creative.
I can't, yeah. What would that be, Stephanie? Can you know what road that would be that it's
Oh,
connected?
yes, I can tell you. Well, I think it's Highland Ridge Drive. That goes right here.
Okay.
I can pull up GIS if you'd like to look at it.
That's right.
I also have some additional drawings if you would like. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Wayne Mortensen. I'm with Excel Development Group. I'm the Vice President of Development, and I just wanted to express our incredible gratitude and appreciation for Director Peterson and her team for stewarding projects like this. It's been
a great partnership. We are happy to be involved in Manhattan in several ways. Just immediately south of this project, we finished a project with the Manhattan Area Housing Partnership a few years. That's been a very successful project, and we're just breaking ground in the northwest part of town on a project called Cypress Ridge. So we love Manhattan, and we feel like this is a good fit for the site that is being considered, and happy to share additional drawings if I'm allowed.
The Cypress Ridge development is with the Manhattan Area Housing Partnership. Am I right there?
Yes, ma'am.
Jared, is he able to share? Wayne, you should be able to share your screen. I believe we made you a
Okay.
presenter.
Okay. Here's just some, let's see here, Control L. So obviously you all know where the site is, probably better than I. Just stone's throw from Amber Park, and additional nestled in with some of the additional multifamily along Scenic Drive. More of a close-up low altitude view of the site. You can tell by the wooded nature of the low-lying areas that there is some drainage and stormwater settlement that happens on the site. So that's a key consideration of our engineers at Schwab Eaton, a local Manhattan firm there. And then these are the two phases that were being referenced in the application. Phase 1 would be the 40-unit affordable family project. It's a mixed income project, so you'd have families as low as 30% of the median income all the way up to market rate that would be eligible to call this home. And then the second phase, workforce townhomes, that would be more in keeping with the character of the neighborhood to the south and east. I think Director Peterson accurately stated that the connection of Hunter Drive is a very cost prohibitive one, because you would have to reinforce and basically build a bridge, which could be anywhere from $600 to $1.4 million, which is a lot of overhead for housing, obviously, these days. And then I can share some of the engineering work. The only retaining wall we would need is on the northern side of the project. We've already begun dialogue with the adjacent multifamily operators to make sure that the work we're doing on this drive would be of mutual benefit. So we want to make sure that our residents would be able to use their drive and they ours. That's the least we can do if the city's allowing us to connect at this place. The landscaping plan, it will be a fairly lush site with a peripheral drive and then a drop-off lane. The elevations show a project that has a lot of texture and quality at the human level, at the pedestrian level, excuse me. The folks at KHRC require very high-quality materials, and because we would be required to own and operate this facility as such for an extended period of time, we would want to make sure that no corners were cut. And then the way the building lays out, it's a 40-unit 2 and 3 bedroom community, so that we could accommodate anywhere from 3 to 4.5 residents, so for 4-person families with children usually. And so you see here the second and third floor plans being very similar to one another, with ample areas for outdoor play and running and exercise activities, those kinds of things. The last thing I want to really just impress, I think, at this point is just the quality with which we have regarded this part of Manhattan. And the Cypress Ridge project is a good example, where it's by a golf course. Having the opportunity to create accessible, affordable housing in even the most stringent or sought-after neighborhoods is critical for our desire as community-oriented people to create communities of choice and opportunity that welcome all income levels and backgrounds. So we would, continue to partner with the city and make sure that this is a project that everybody can be proud of. I will close by saying that the tax credit application process has become quite competitive.
in the last few years in Kansas, and we are proof positive of that, having been awarded frequently, but still being very careful each time we put a project together to make sure that it could potentially be awarded. Because Manhattan has been fortunate to be selected in the last few rounds, it does not benefit from the same point incentives that are now provided to other communities that have not been in that same position. So that is why we're seeking the waivers today, so that we can score all 20 points in the municipal collaboration and financial assistance category and make this project an equal competitor with other municipal areas. So that's why otherwise we wouldn't be seeking these incentives, or we'd be kind of going one or the other. But the way that the application is set up requires both.
That's great, thank you.
You're probably on top of what's going on in the legislature as to tax credits. Could you bring us up to date?
We are. So the governor just signed the revocation of the state affordable housing tax credit. It's I think a sad thing for a lot of us because we've seen what the program has been able to accomplish statewide. In addition to Manhattan, we're working in Leavenworth and Colby, which is a small town out on the western edge of Kansas. We've seen what that's been able to achieve and accomplish over the years. It is our hope, and we understand through our various contacts at the State House that a replacement program is being devised that is maybe a little bit more modestly sized and is maybe a better fit for the eccentric market conditions that exist across the state. So we are a little disappointed but not dispirited that the state will continue to prioritize the creation of affordable housing in what mechanism and method that's still yet to be determined.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone in the public who'd like to comment on this? Sure.
Gary Olds, 3308 Frontier Circle. Just to clarify, it's a low-income tax credit project that goes for an extended period of time, but the extended period of time wasn't defined. Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 15? And then when it comes off the market, as I understand them, then every unit will go to market rate.
Is that question for us, Gary? Because you're supposed to be addressing.
It was for him, but
You're supposed to be
I think he was
addressing
the one
us.
that can answer it, but I won't expect an answer, I just throw it out.
Thank you.
Could you tell us the length of the, I believe you're
Yeah.
required to.
No, I don't want to overstep my ability here. I'm happy to respond as much as you would like. The compliance period is for 25 years, and we would then have a right of first refusal with a local not-for-profit that would continue the project as affordably as possible in the current market. So, just like we work with MAP on those other properties to ensure that they're not simply just sold into kind of market rate developer hands at the end of the project, but they can slowly evolve to embrace a larger array of the public.
Thank you. Okay,
Who can address tax exemption, property tax exemption?
I think we're talking about sales tax and city incentives.
Not property tax.
No
Gary.
property tax at the moment. This is just to qualify to have more points, because they do all these things on points, and you get points for various things. And this will assist them in their application for tax credit projects.
I mean, I think my only thing would go back to, is there a reason why we wouldn't pay the building permit fee out of workforce housing sales tax? I kind of in preference of that one, just given our financial situation, and that just makes sense to me if we have those funds available. So that would be the modification I would suggest, instead of just waiving it.
Sure.
We go ahead and make the full payment out of workforce housing sales tax. I don't know if, Danielle, you have I might be missing some component in it. No?
Nope.
Okay.
We can certainly do that.
I think tonight we're only talking about giving them this exemption, so we don't have to determine where it,
Oh, I thought we had
oh,
to.
I see, yeah, okay. So, would anyone like to make a motion?
I will move, yeah, I got the right one. I'll move to approve resolution number 050625-F, determining the city's intent to issue industrial revenue bonds and authorizing a sales tax exemption for the Excel Development Group's Amber Pointe Project, and approve resolution 050625-G, granting city incentives to waive building permit fee and water and sewer connection fees, and/or pay building fee out of workforce housing sales tax dollars, in support of the project.
Second.
Okay, it's all right to add the, in, from, okay, good. Moving second, would you call the roll, please, Brenda?
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitten,
Yes.
Mayor McCullough,
Yes?
Commissioner Adamczyk,
Yes.
Commissioner Opelt,
Yes.
motion carried 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Good luck in Topeka. We will now move to D, consider amending the Manhattan Development Code.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Commission. John Adam, Assistant Director of Community Development. The proposal has a number of, a lot of cleanup sort of stuff. There's not a lot of substantive sort of things, some definition and purpose adjustments, adding district hierarchy, which I'll get to in a moment, regularizing some headings between sections that we realized were not regular, adjusting some of our bike parking ratios and the shared parking regulations, a few sign change regulations, procedural changes, and rezoning process adjustments. District hierarchy is a provision that is allowed in state law. So when somebody applies for a rezoning, and after the notice has gone out, if they say, oh, we'd like to go to a different zoning district, if it is one of a lesser change, then we don't have to renotice and the meeting can continue. The whole premise is that if it's going to be a lesser change, you're not scaring anybody. But you need to have this hierarchy in place in order to take advantage of it. So that's the proposal here.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why would somebody do that?
That's happened twice in the last 3 years.
Okay. So is it like they apply for RLA, from RM to RLA, and then they say, oh, wait, we actually want to go to RL?
Yes.
Okay.
Didn't we just have one, John, not that long, or maybe it was just the overlay that it was, I feel like there was one recently with maybe one of Zach's projects or somebody's recently where there was some.
Not Zach's project. There was one down on Potawatomi Avenue, and they had wanted to
was.
go to. Yeah, it was an industrial, and I said, why don't you go to BC, business commercial? But we didn't have this, so we couldn't take advantage of it. And business commercial fit their intended use better. Regularizing these terms, this is in the site design standards. We're all over the place with these. I don't know who was doing quality control. I'm not going to blame myself. I will. But anyway, it was noticed when we were working on something else, so we were going to get these fixed. Bike parking ratios, we've had some development proposals that have come up in the last couple of months or so. And when we looked at the bike parking that they would require, we thought that's really, really a lot of bike parking.
I would have a question about that, though. I think part of that's been from the HUD housing people, and that they're not having any bike parking there.
At what?
With the HUD housing, the Sunflower Flats or whatever.
Yeah, that was one that brought it to our attention, and they are going to be putting some bike parking in. But it
But
was.
I understand quite a few of the people from Colony Square, I think, ride their bikes to the kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah, and that there are more low-income people riding bikes these days because cars and gas are more and more expensive. So I just want to make sure we have adequate space for the, and don't just say, we'll give you 2 stalls for your whole building.
Yes.
What are the rules now for?
Well, I can't remember how many bedrooms they had for that particular project, but it came out to some 20 bike parking spaces. Now, that is 10 racks.
Okay.
And I think a developer that, I'm going to answer this and then I'm going to back up and explain this.
Well, we
more a
don't,
little
we
bit.
don't have a bike committee anymore to kind of check on these things and bring them to us as commissioners. I'm not a bike expert by any means.
Right.
But I do think it's important that we consider that people may be riding, especially with electric bikes, and the cost of cars and gas in Texas, there may be more people riding bikes.
Yes. So the Bike Ped Advisory Board didn't have any regulatory oversight on how much bike parking. That's a
But
code issue.
they had advice, though.
Yes, they
Yeah,
did.
no, they had no regulatory, I'm not arguing that, but no one is paying attention to how many bike parking places there are at the moment, it seems to me.
I think also that somebody who's doing a retirement residence is probably likely to know who their clientele is going to be and who's going to be needing that. That's my guess. Now, this is the override issue that came up during the planning board because we had a lot of discussion about this that went on and on and on for a while. And we were back and forth on what is the direction you are giving me on what I should be putting forth to the city commission. And that is the override. They didn't say, John put this in. This is something I put together afterward. And now I did speak to one commissioner or a board member who said, yes, you shouldn't exempt retirement residences. They
No, I don't think you
objected to
should.
that.
So did you take that out?
No, I left that decision for you. I just wanted to highlight that came up.
So we're exempting retirement housing from any bike, having any bike storage. And that's just what I'm saying. I'm hearing from retirees and I'm hearing from the people who have the community kitchen that a lot of their retirees are riding bikes. So why are we saying that no retirement housing has to have a bike?
Well, and that's ultimately up to the commission. It was a suggestion that came from the fact that there are going to be some communities that may not have a sort of clientele that has it, and some communities are going to say, no, we're going to have some really active retirees, and so we're going to supply our own. This doesn't stop anyone from putting in the bike parking if they want to.
John, what are we considering retirement residences? I mean, that's like
55 and up,
the communities?
yes.
Like that?
Yeah, the community sort of things, yeah.
I mean, I would think,
I rode a bike at 55.
well, I was gonna say, most of those communities, that would be
I'm
either
still riding a
a
bike.
sales amenity if they
Sadly.
wanted to put it in,
Unfortunately.
Sure.
or not. I think you could
Yes.
leave it up to them.
Yeah,
I'm very confused.
okay.
So on this slide, you have retirement residences highlighted. Were they originally waived, or have you added that to this category?
Yes, it's added, and this is an artifact of working in the back end of Encode Plus, which hosts our MDC. And that is, when you make a change, this is what it looks like. It's not the usual sort of red strike through and blue underline for additions. So the green solid ones are additions, the green red text strike throughs are being deleted.
So are we being asked to override the entire approved document from the Urban Area Planning Board because of retirement residences?
It was also the parking ratios, the bike parking ratios. This table was a little bit different when I showed it to them, and then they gave me direction on, they said, why don't you adjust the ratios differently? And so this is the only section, the only table that you're being asked to override. Everything else they approved.
Okay, And then I'm going back, I want to go back to the question that I emailed you this well, maybe I'm jumping ahead. Do you want to continue through
Sure.
your presentation?
Okay. Sign limits, most zoning districts they give you a budget of sign area, and then you can put as many wall signs as you want on there. The CN district and BC, which I don't have on this slide, are limited to one wall sign. And the reason we made this change, or are proposing to make this change, is because when Brahms wanted to come in, they had that one sign limit. Instead of just working with a budget and doing as many wall signs as they wanted. That was, it's not just because of Brahms, it's because of those sorts of issues. A problem comes up, or there's an issue, we see it, we like to address it when we can.
No, but I do hope somebody at the Chamber of Commerce
I was like,
calls
are we getting a
Brahms
Brahms
tomorrow.
Procedures and administration, we worked with the city attorney's office on this. We stripped out a lot of, it was wordy. It was a very wordy, long section. And sometimes we were finding ourselves, are we at odds with statute? And of course, statute rules. We always defaulted to the statute, but why trip ourselves up? So let's clean it. So just looking at the analysis, and I'll be very quick here.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
It's confusing. Procedures. It looks like you struck out everything.
Yeah.
Well,
Decisions made by city staff. Okay.
yes, that stays.
Yeah, he did.
So this table will just say decisions made by city staff, decision made by a board after a hearing, decision made by city commission, sometimes after a recommendation. I guess, what's the context here?
Later on in the review procedures, we say if it's a type 1, a type 2, type 3.
Got it. Okay.
And so we have it's a citational thing.
Makes sense.
So elsewhere in this document, it
references
defines
this
that
table.
Type 2 is discretionary decision-making, is that?
No, type 2 is not discretionary. That's one made by like the planning board or the HRB or the BZA, Board of Zoning Appeals.
So do we even need this table anymore? Because it seems like it's awfully simple.
Well, we have so many citations
Got it.
Say go back
to it.
the one.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yes. Okay, so the public benefit, there's an extended neighborhood meeting notification time. I didn't put it in the slideshow, but it was in the text in there. We're extending that to 14 days. And another public benefit is more flexibility in the sign regulations for 2 districts, getting them more in line with other commercial districts. 2, the consistency with the purposes set out in the code, and the changes still adhere to the purposes. 3 is areas most likely affected. It's going to be the business commercial and the neighborhood commercial zoning districts because they get new sign regulations. 4 is necessity. There are no conditions that have really changed to require the amendments, nothing in the community that's changed. This is just that we were looking and saying, oh, we could stand cleaning some of this up. So it's really a procedural, to try and do some streamlining. 4 is consistency with the purposes of the policies and goals of the comp plan, and none of the proposed changes will affect implementation of the comprehensive plan.
So John, none of these 26-9G items are included in the ordinance. Why is that?
You mean, so the ordinance does not list these?
Where the governing body desires to override the recommendation of the Manhattan Urban Area Planning Board and revise the development code by revising section 26.1, 26.2, 26.3, 26, blah, 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 blah. There are no 26-9 entries.
Yes, and so this analysis, these are the review criteria for development code amendments. And so they're not being changed themselves, but staff is required to make an analysis of development code amendments to the planning board and then ultimately to the city commission
but they themselves are not undergoing change. And so they're not cited in the ordinance. These are permanent features of the MDC.
Even though you've changed the meeting notification time?
Well, that's in section 26.8B, I think, or division.
Can you flip back a page, John?
I can't believe you're going to make me go home and read this whole thing tonight.
We can wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, sorry, got city plans all day.
You can always table it.
So the issue on the table, just to summarize, is that 26.9G 1D-1, it looks like something's changed, but it's not listed in the ordinance. But Stephanie's shaking her head that I was just trying to summarize, I think, the concern that we were having right now.
Or that Susan's having and muddying the waters.
No, you've grouped us all in, Susan.
Just like
on this together.
Just like you had those 7 criteria for rezoning. These are the criteria, the 1D1, 1D2, 3. Those are the criteria we use to determine whether it's recommended that we make modifications to the MDC. So what John was doing was going through on like the 1D1, if you'll go back one. So where that citation is in the MDC, it is 26.8B. But for this criteria, the analysis that we're doing of why these changes are being made, he just highlighted there, and I don't know what 1D1 is. Do you know?
The public benefit of the amendment.
So he's saying the public benefit of the changes being made, he's citing this as one of those benefits, is changing section 26.8B, which is the neighborhood meeting notification time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but that's not what I got out of reviewing this particular presentation earlier today. That was not very clear. Sorry, John.
Okay, that these are review criteria.
Okay.
Oh, that's the part you said that wasn't, I'm just asking for clarification.
The linkage between 26.8B and 26.9G was not clear to me.
Okay.
And I will go on record as saying, no, I did not review the whole original document today.
I just want to know why we're not having bikes in retirement homes.
Nobody said we can't have bikes.
We took it out.
They just don't have to.
All right, so please clarify one more time. I'm sorry if I'm being dense here. The planning board made a recommendation to move this up to us to approve it. However, you are requesting that we override their recommendation. Can you condense into like 4 sentences why you're?
Yes. The ratios that I brought them, they said they disagreed with it. They said, and they gave me direction on that. We had talked about retirement residences, and so I put that in. I only spoke to one member who said that they disagreed with that. So it's entirely up to you if that stays in there or not, of course. All of this is entirely up to you.
But if we override the planning board's recommendation approval of the code amendment, then it doesn't get amended.
Commissioner, can I interject? Because I think I might have a sense of where the confusion lies. So the way that the statute sets up the process for this amendment is that it first goes to the planning board, and they either recommend approval or denial of the text changes. That evening, in order to give staff time to sort of do math and figure out what kind of parking ratios would make sense, since the ones presented to them that evening kind of had a nonsensical result. I mean, it was a bit of an error. It was as though there was less parking required once you passed a certain threshold in building size than there was before that threshold, which is obviously wasn't the intention. So
That being said, their option was either to work that out that evening, which they weren't really interested in doing, or delay and take it back up at another meeting, preventing it from moving forward to the city commission. And I suppose it could be said that none of them felt strongly enough about this issue and how it specifically was handled to do that. So they opted to just approve it as presented. But they did express, at that evening and in their action, that they understood that it was likely to come to you in a different form with respect to the bicycle parking. Okay. So the minutes sought to reflect that. But it was probably more confusing than it needed to be. We did our best to guide them in a direction that kept them from having to come up with a formula that evening, which they wanted to leave to staff, if that makes sense. So the override is just necessary in order for you to pass a different version than what they approved.
Right, so that's do we need to take 2 actions tonight, or just the one? Just one.
You would override their recommendation and approve the version that you're seeing this evening, which is a changed version from what they saw. So it's technically an override because it's not the same thing that they approved. But as John says, the only change is to this bicycle parking section.
But I don't like the change to the bicycle parking. Sorry. Okay.
So if we override, we still end up approving this text. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any more questions?
No.
Is there any public comment on this? Oh, there is.
Mel?
Mel, you stayed late.
I admire you all for hanging in these meetings. Mel Boris, 1918 Humboldt Street. Just had a few comments based on the Unger process of neighborhood meeting. There was a comment from one of the citizens that we have noticed and wanted to ask about. When there is a neighborhood meeting, it's typical that the applicant is there to explain what his project is to be about and answer any questions about it. But they don't necessarily have all the facts of what could happen if the rezoning that they're requesting is approved. And as I asked earlier, how many units would that property be allowed by right to have if it was rezoned? So I think that if we're looking at, it's good to have a longer period of notice for the neighborhood meeting, make sure the mail gets out and so forth. But it reminded me to ask if facts could be available at these meetings. Perhaps a representative from the planning department could be there to answer questions as well. But I think these neighborhood meetings are lacking in information if the neighbors aren't aware of what could happen on that property once it's rezoned. Another thing that I was amazed to hear tonight is that a fence is considered a buffer yard, and I think that's very misleading. When I looked at the proposal for the Unger Complex, and it described these buffer yards on 3 sides, I thought, well, gosh, I imagine lush landscaping around there that could really help with softening the effects or the consequences of that project. Well, you know, an 1.5 inch wide fence, I never thought about that when I saw that buffer yard, or how narrow it could be, 5 feet. Well, that's not going to support much landscaping. So I'm a little concerned about the misleading prospects of that. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Mel. Anyone else want to make a comment? See none. Commissioners, motion?
I move we override the recommendation of the Manhattan Urban Area Planning Board and approve first reading of an ordinance amending the Manhattan Development Code.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Brenda, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Minton,
Yes.
Mayor McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Adamczyk,
Yes.
Commissioner Opelt,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Great. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn the May
Second.
6th City
Oh,
Commission meeting.
Sorry.
Gosh, you guys are really ready to go.
Uh-huh.
Brenda, would you call the roll quickly?
Mayor Adamczyk. I'm sorry. Mayor McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Adamczyk.
Yes.
Commissioner Opelt.
Yes.
Commissioner Motta.
Yes.
Commissioner Minton.
Yes.
Motion
Sorry, Brenda, we've been tough on you tonight.
Motion carries 5-0.